we're on.
All right, great.
Hi.
Let's do this.
What's going on?
Hey.
So here we are. Introduce yourselves.
I am Mindy. I've been clean for almost 5 years, and that's pretty much the gist of this interview, I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess I could start off with that.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're fine. We don't have a script here. We're talking about addiction and overcoming and just swapping stories and doing whatever. I know Robert has a really good story. Robert, humble, by the way.
Yeah, I'm Robert, and I've been clean a little over 8 years now. And yeah, we'll talk more about that, I guess. But
so were you surprised to hear me reach out to you, Mindy?
Yeah. Probably because I think I've shared some of my story with you on like a personal, like front porch type of level.
Yeah. Oh, Mindy's my neighbor. She lives across the street.
Yeah. So yes and no. Like I've been asked to speak like a decent amount of times. It's kind of cool because there's no crowd right in front of me this time. So.
Oh yeah. But I'm not editing either, so.
I mean, I would rather just say whatever than
you can
look
still just fuck it all up.
in the face. Yeah. Well, that's what I do. So.
I agree.
And Mr. Robert, so how all this got inspired was you made a comment on the post when I had interviewed your wife and Joe for their band Rumors last week. And you made a comment and you're like, hey, I want to come on the podcast. And like at first I'm like, well, what the fuck? What are me and Robert going to talk about? You know, like, because for me, I need like some sort of like subject to attach to, you know, whether it be music, this, that, or the other. And I was talking to Anya, and I'm like, you know, Robert wants to come on the podcast, but I'm not sure what to discuss. And she goes, talk to him about his drug addiction, you know, his story, you know, and how he overcome it. I'm like, that's a good idea. And she's like, invite Mindy over. So this kind of Anya-fied and, you know, brought together. So as soon as she said it, I was like, boom, that's actually a very important thing. And, you know, I want people to know that this podcast is more than just musicians and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, because when I commented, I was like in the same boat. I was just like, it seemed like Bonnie and Joe had a lot of fun. And, you know, Bonnie was telling me, like, you know, it started out talking about music and then it just spiraled into all this different topics. And I'm like, I like to talk about topics, you know, like, so I'm like, I'm going to say I want to do a podcast. Like, yeah, I mean, we can and not my first podcast. We actually podcast on Wednesday nights for our Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Oh, you do that with Jesse Winkler, don't you?
Yeah. We podcast our Wednesday night campaign. We are a couple episodes behind on getting them uploaded on Spotify, but
I need to start uploading to Spotify. Yeah, I just do YouTube right now and just kind of just put it there and forget. Yeah,
I don't know how Jesse like I don't know the process of getting on Spotify anyway.
It's easy. Like I have an account. I'm just lazy, you know, because that's pretty much it. Like, you know, I just between this and Film Trigger and music and you know, like I don't know. I'll get to it eventually. You know,
it's like time consuming to have your hands in so many pots. Like
it
really is.
Oh yeah.
Every platform, like I've learned that, like it's if you're running every platform at once, it's like where do I go next?
Yeah, like I mean, I couldn't even begin to count how many social medias I have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, from Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
I still can't figure out Twitter.
YouTube, I have Vero, and then I just recently started on Reddit. You know,
I
just
only go
now
to Reddit
starting
for,
on
like,
Reddit.
Legit wormholes.
What's that?
Just now starting on Reddit.
I did. I went on there. I feel like such an old fucking man. Like I'm like, what is this technology? What do they want from me? Where do I put my credit card? You know, like you know. But you know, we can have this conversation. You know, it can be about addiction or whatever, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Sure. Yeah.
But you know, if we go down rabbit holes, man, it's cool. You know,
I'm a rabbit hole junkie.
Well, I mean, yeah, we've been in the studio for 10 minutes, and before we pressed record, she asked me if I had a wicker butthole in my wall.
Oh, it looks like a wicker butthole.
Which it is not a wicker butthole. It is my guitar string reef that I call it, collected over the years. I just put in a circle, and I guess it does look like a metal anus up there. So
metal anus. Band name dibs.
I was just thinking that.
What'd you say?
Band name dibs.
Oh, band name. Yeah.
I feel like you gotta call it steel anus though for it
Steel
to really
anus,
sound like.
right?
Yeah.
Only if we're
anus.
doing a
This is our
80s
first
hair
song.
metal, though.
Yes.
This is our first song, Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind.
So, but yeah, let's just jump into the stories. Like, I don't know, like,
There's always a where it started. Like, always. There's always a where it started. Because I don't think any of us ever wake up. Like, I wasn't 10 years old, like, hey, I can't wait to grow up and do drugs. It's going to be awesome. Like, there's always a where it started. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that it's starting during the where it started. Like, you don't know exactly.
I agree with that, especially when you're young. And, you know, I feel for me, like, it started out like, you know, to fit in with the older friends, you know, especially like high school years, you know, you make friends with seniors and they're, you know, doing blow and smoking weed and, you know, and you're like, well, I want to be cool like them, you know, and you just start like just a little bit here and there, you know, when you get to sneak out of the house for a house party and next thing you know, it's, you know, a full blown problem.
Yeah.
So, you know, the people that you're hanging around, it's like you're influenced by them. Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, like, I'm not putting blame on others, you know, because we all have a choice in the beginning, you know, but it's just everybody's different. I know, like, I mean, for me, it was, you know, I wanted to fit in. I grew up in, like, I don't want to say a sheltered life, but my dad was really strict growing up. Like, I mean, to the point to where he was a worrier. Like, I never learned how to ride a bike. Never learned how to swim because he was always afraid I was going to drown or wreck my bike.
So,
you know,
like, when you say strict, do you mean like he was a worrier, or he was like, you know, like
he was strict on me in the sense of he was afraid I was going to get hurt, but like I still had my freedoms to a point, and I got lucky. Like I lived 2 doors down from my best friend for 14 years, you know, but he had an older brother, you know, who was quite a bit older than us. When we were in middle school, he was graduating high school, you know, so he was already into the party phase, and his dad was a partier. And I mean, even my dad was a partier, you know, alcohol wise, and I didn't find out about his drug use until a little later in life. But, you know, for me, it was a matter of fitting in because I felt so sheltered. As being young, I didn't have a lot of friends other than, you know, the one neighborhood friend. I wasn't popular in school, so when I got to that age to where, you know, I had the chance to fit in and be in the cool group, all I had to do was, you know, do what they were doing. That's where, you know, it kind of started for me. But I started at a really young age, too.
Same.
You know, like I started smoking weed at 10 years old. I had a coke habit at 14.
Wow, that is really young.
You know.
You know, you said your dad, you found out later that he had drugs. Was he in the heavier drugs, or was it? Are you just talking about like smoking pot or like?
Well, when I first started smoking weed at 10, I found out my dad was a smoker because, you know, after experiencing it for myself, I started picking up on the smell at home.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I found out he smoked weed. And then when I was a little older, you know, like late teens, I found out that, you know, he was into harder shit too. I mean, my dad went to prison in 91 and I never knew why. Like, it was always a big secret being young. And then when I got older, I found out that it was, you know, for drug charges and, you know, whatnot. And found out that he was still on it, you know. Like,
some people say that, or, you know, there's a theory that, I don't know if it's a theory or a fact. I don't study it, but, you know, that it's genetic, you know, that the being addicted, having an addictive personality can be genetic. Yeah. And like somebody can go their whole life, you know, not knowing they're an addict, knowing that their parent is an addict, you know, and then they stay away from it. But, you know, if they ever tried it, then that might turn that on.
Yeah.
I know that's a really prevalent with alcoholics.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
They I've heard a lot of alcoholic stories that are like that, you know.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is like, this is a super controversial topic, but I think a lot of it is genetic, but a lot of it's environmental too. Like, I don't think, like, I started smoking weed when I was 14, and I don't think that I looked at it as any type of an issue just because of, like, I was never taught that it was really an issue. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, acceptable, I guess. So I think a lot of it's environmental too. Like, if you're subjected to it and you're never really, like, taught... Like, I remember going through DARE. I still have the video of my dance in 6th grade. You know what I mean? And then, like, a couple years later, like, I was, like, full-blown because it really does, like, I think the education...
So you were young, very young.
Yeah. I think, like, the first time I ever took Xanax, I was 14. Like, and I was an only child. I was bored all the time. I was lonely. You know what I mean? And not that that's even really an excuse, because obviously, like, today I can deal with, like, being lonely or bored and not go get high, but, you know, it's almost like he said, like, you kind of find, like, a group that you vibe with, and then before you realize it, like, you're doing the things that they do, and like he said, it's not their fault at all whatsoever, but it just, like, it materializes so quickly that you don't really always, like, realize what's happening until you wake up one morning and you're like, fuck, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, it's very easy to, you know, and I say this to people all the time because, you know, unfortunately I got friends that still do coke and, you know, all this stuff, and I'm always, like, trying to just tell them, like, look, like, it's not worth it, because you might think right now it's just, you know, oh, well, I only do, you know, an 8-ball on the weekends.
Yeah, justification.
Well, yeah, that's where I started too. And then next thing you know, it's, you know, an 8-ball every day. And then next thing you know, coke just doesn't do it anymore, so I'm smoking meth now. Like, you know, because, and I'm not saying everybody's the same, because I've met people as well that can just do a couple lines on the weekends and go back to their families and their 40-hour-a-week jobs and only touch it on Saturdays. But I feel like for the most part, you know, because I see it, I've lived it, you know, and I see it in other people, oh, well, I'm just doing a couple lines on the weekend. And the next thing you know, every time you see them, they're doing lines and they're talking about it. And
do you think that's an issue? Like, you know, you have a friend that, you know, does it, you know, casually on the weekends or something like that, but you've never, like, you've known him for years, you never see him get out of control. Is that somebody you would still be like, hey man, you know, what are you doing? Or he's live and let live sort of situation, you know?
I will tough love the fuck out of the people I care about. I do not care. I do not care at all whatsoever, because of me speaking up, like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. That your life is not my responsibility. I'm responsible for what I'm responsible for, and that only. But if I genuinely give a fuck about you and I see you struggling, I'm going to say, like, hey, you're going to fuck your life up. Stop. And if you choose to listen, that's fine. If you want to listen, I will sit down and tell you my whole entire story and about how I expected this to never happen to me, and tell you exactly how it goes. I will tell you your story in the future, but I'm the main subject at that point.
Yeah.
And if you don't choose to listen, like, that's fine. I'm still always going to be there. You know what I mean? Like, I have really good friends that I distance myself from, but they still are struggling with relapsing and stuff. Like, I'm always, like, I'll be there for them in the best way that I can without getting too involved, because I fought like hell to get my life back. I'm not letting anything get close enough to my energy, to my bubble, to fuck me up ever again.
Yeah, and that seems to be a very powerful thing, is knowing, you know, like, I need to stay away from these people, you know, keep them at a distance.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, you let go of people that you care about, because everybody will tell you, like, when you're living that life, all of those friends, like, no one genuinely gives a fuck about you, and 90% of the time that's true. But they can't give a fuck about you because they don't give a fuck about them.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, like, there are relationships that are built, and they're friends that you have to walk away from, that you know are good-hearted people just like you were. But in the grips of addiction, there is no good. It's all ugly. Like, there's nothing good about it, you know? So there's people that you have to walk away from that genuinely mean something to you. And, like, it doesn't, like, it's like mourning the loss of someone that's still alive. Like, these were my people, and I had to walk away from them for my own good. But, like, at the end of the day, like, you have to decide, like, is my life worth it to me to continue fighting, you know, at all costs? You know what I mean? So walking away from those people, loving them from a distance, does it suck? Absolutely. But is it vital? Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and to go back to your question about, like, the weekend user, like, I'm still going to say stuff to people, you know, and like you said, you know, you got to show that tough love, even if they are just a weekend user, or maybe they're just an every other weekend user, or however. But I'm going to not really preach to them, but, like, I'm going to give them my advice as, you know, an addict, because it takes that one thing in life to possibly flip that switch from going from only on the weekends to all the time, because again, been there with that, like I started out as just every once in a while, and it took something traumatizing to make me need it, to make me want it more and more. And, just like they say, we're all just one paycheck away from homelessness. If you're an occasional user or an every once in a while user, you're just one event away from being, a full-blown addict, I feel,
What was your event?
I had a few growing up. Like I said, I started smoking weed at 10 because, wanted to fit in with my friend and his older brother and, hang out with the older kids. And, because I've never felt in with people my own age growing up. Like I always felt like I wanted to be older than what I was, which I think every kid goes through that at some phase. But, then I started with coke, and at 15, my mom and dad split up, and that for me was like really rough because I'm like, what? My parents split up? Like, I thought that only happened to, people, like you hear about it, but being still young and kind of, right. So I was, pretty tore up about it, and, been using coke, doing a little pills here and there. And, them splitting up, it just put me in a point of like, I kind of felt it was my fault. Maybe I did something wrong. So I started sneaking out of the house more. I started partying more. I actually OD'd when I was 15 on Oxycontin, which it was a deliberate, like I was trying to OD.
You're just like, fuck
it. I was just like, screw it. I was actually at Hollander Swimming Pool in Newark, and one of my buddies was there that I used to buy pills from, and he had Oxycontin. And, back then, like, they were just now hitting the streets in this area. Like, nobody really knew much about them, but all he could tell me was their time released. Like, they're not going to kick in right away.
Yeah.
Well, I bought 8 of the 80 milligram Oxycontins off of him and took all 8 of them. And ended up in a coma at Licking Memorial Hospital and was in a coma for a few days. And then luckily, like, one of my friends ended up, like, he said he snitched, but I don't think he snitched. He saved my life. But he finally told my dad what I had taken, and they were able to treat me for it. But, I mean, it had me messed up for months after that. Like, all I wanted to do was sleep. I would get to the point if I was lacking sleep, my neck would get real tight, and my eyes would feel like they wanted to roll into the back of my head. And that happened for like a month. But even after that, it was like, I don't really care. Like, I just want to party. I just want to do drugs because it was the only thing that eased the pain, of what I was feeling.
So did things at home tighten up? Like you said, your dad was very, worried about you, kind of ran a tight ship, like after something like that, how did that affect the home life?
Well, we had moved out, my mom got an apartment, and me and my little sister went to live with my mom. And, when they split up, like, my dad honestly wasn't around much after that. Like, he just kind of did his thing. He was always a partier, like he was always a drinker. He was the type of guy that he would go to work, but when he'd get home from work, it was country music and a 30-pack of beer. Like, don't bother me. I'm sitting at the kitchen table and I'm drinking, And, after we moved out, it was, he would get off work, he would go home, like, he might stop by and say hi to us or something, but he just didn't really come around a whole lot.
So, like, after that, it just started spiraling more for you? Like, you just dove deeper into it?
For me, yes. And I ended up getting in some trouble, which I really don't want to go into too much detail of that. But I ended up getting into some trouble. It wasn't drug related or anything, but just I got in some big trouble, and ended up like slowing down for a while just because I had to. That was the only option. But once the trouble was over, it was like, you got so much going on, and I had caught a felony, and at 17, so coming out of that, it was hard to get a job. It was hard to do anything. So, your option is to make money on the streets. So I got into selling and then using again. Because, you're selling product. Well, I like to do the product. So I got into using again. But I did, slow down for a little bit and then got back into it. But even getting back into it, it was just kind of like a slow incline going into it, and then I hit the top and it was just straight downhill.
Yeah. And you I'm not sure what it is you don't want to talk about, but I know that you weren't around for a while. Is that what you don't want to talk about? Okay. Then I'll skip over that. All right. Now, how long were you an addict for? Like, how long did this go on?
I mean, I guess for me, like, I don't count the early years of just smoking weed. You know what I mean? Like,
right. But
like for me, that wasn't. But I would say, God, from 14 until. Let's see, me and Bonnie, I was just turning 27 when I met Bonnie, so from 14 to 27. And
Bonnie was kind of the new beginning for you, wasn't she?
Yeah, definitely.
This is a really cool story. I've heard this story before. Do you mind telling that story?
Yeah, so just to backtrack a little bit farther, leading up to 2010, I was always a weed smoker, still am to this day. I've got my medical card, it helps keep me calm. And just to say this, a lot of people say it's the gateway drug, but,
I don't believe that.
I've never smoked weed and went, you know what, I need to do something.
Like your comments are going to pop off, probably. Everybody's got an opinion.
I've never hit a bowl or a joint or something and said, you know what? I think I'm going to go shoot up now. So anyway, I had smoked weed, done coke and everything up until 2010, a little bit of pills here and there. I liked my Percocet, or did like my Percocet, but 2010 rolls around, my mom, or late 2009, my mom gets diagnosed with cancer. The day after her birthday in April 2010, she passed away. Well, when she passed away, it went downhill, like even farther, and rather than like being the man I was supposed to be for my little sister and, relying on family to get me through an emotional time too, and a very rough time in life, I turned back to the partying phase. And, I moved into a house to where every night it was a party. All we did was party and, still kept doing coke, and it got to the point to where coke wasn't enough, and I was also, I was the type of guy that if you had it, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
And, my list of drugs that I haven't tried is way shorter than the list of stuff I have. But, I lived this rough life for, the next 2 years after my mom passed away on meth. I was to the point to where, I was up for, I think, the night I very first met Bonnie, I had been up for like 9 days. And, I was to the point I was smoking 2 8 balls of meth every day. It was bad. And I looked like it. I was super thin. I just looked sick and homeless and,
When you're in that mode and, you're deep in the woods, to say, do you think about that? Do you think like, man, this is really bad, I need to stop? Or are you just constantly just...
Are you talking about meth specifically? Because absolutely, however, the come down off meth, especially when up for days, is gnarly. Like, it's not even like withdrawal, but the come down is rough, man. Like, so it's like, all right, well, I can do some more and I can stay up for another couple days and fuck it, and we'll talk about it in a couple days. Or, go through it, and it's rough. It's really fucking rough.
Yeah, it is like it's hard, like when you would be out and can't get a hold of the guy, and you're just like, whew, but hard on yourself, thinking, like I always thought about what I was doing. Like it always crossed my mind, like, what am I doing with my life? But for me, it was like I had nothing to look forward to. Like I already felt like I was, a shitty person. Like I'm not going to get any better. Like who do I have? I barely talked to my dad before the drug addiction. Like he wasn't around. He wasn't there for us when our mom passed away. Like he was, but he wasn't. Because he was off doing his thing. And so for me, like I thought about it all the time, but I just didn't see, like, there wasn't a reason. Because, when I was high, I was having a blast. Like, I felt, better than I ever felt when I was, high and just living it. I just felt like this makes me feel good. But also, when you start to come down, you start to question, like, why do I do this? Why do this? Because,
things start becoming more real.
Right, and for me it was just always like, oh, what's the fucking point? Like what? Why be a better me? Like who cares? Like who's it matter to? Who I am.
Is that how you felt about it, Mindy?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like when you're using, like, like I'm a giant piece of shit right now, but you don't care because it, like, those feelings of like guilt and like worthlessness only perpetuate the cycle. So, like, I mean, I guess I can't speak for everybody, but I knew I was being a giant piece of shit. Like, I was worthless is how I felt and how I would describe it. But that didn't stop me because I was just like, well, yeah, so then what do I have to fix my life for? Like, what's the fucking point? So it just, like, perpetuates that, like, feeling of, like, feeling foreign in your own body kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, like, and I always say, like, part of the reason that I continued to use is because I had created a life for myself that I had to fucking escape from to cope.
Like what do you mean? Like
there was just like there was nothing like I hadn't done. From the time I was really young, like I felt an immense amount of pressure to like do something and be something, but I always like struggled with anxiety, like to the point that I would get kicked out of class for having panic attacks and got told to go sit in the hallway, and that was the end of it. So, like, I always felt like I was going to, like, do something and then be something. But I didn't understand how to get there. And so before I was ever able to get there, I started, like, feeling less than, I guess. And, like, not really, like, worth it because I wasn't anything. Like, instead of just accepting myself for who I was and what I was in that very moment, I felt inferior. And so, like, I had created a life that, like, it felt dead end to me. And so, like, I didn't care that I was using all the time because I didn't have anything to, like, stay clean for in the beginning.
How did you get into it exactly? Like, what led you down that road?
Like, I smoked weed and I drank in high school. Everybody knew it. Like,
everyone keeps saying smoke weed. That's what everyone keeps starting off with.
It was, like, so looked down upon. Like, I was that kid from the other side of the tracks. You know what I mean? Like, I still played sports and stuff, but, like, I got kicked off the bus one time for drinking liquor on the school bus. So, like, you know what I mean? I kind of
just a rebel.
Yeah. I kind of always just, like, did my thing. And everybody knew it. And, like, there were some kids that were allowed to hang out with me, and there were some kids that weren't. Like, it was what it was, But I didn't really... I was still very, like, anti-drug because, like, I was never taught... Like, I don't know, and I'm not going to get into that because I still don't really feel that way, but... So, like, to me, like, drugs were like chemicals, like anything harder, you know what I mean? Like, alcohol is whatever, people drink, like, I'm not, and weed was like whatever. So, anything else besides that was chemical. So I was like, I had been dating someone for a long time in high school, and people would, like, warn me, like, oh, he does drugs, and I'm like, no, he doesn't, he smokes weed. And then he ended up injuring his collarbone. I don't want to talk too much about him. But anyways, let me just run through this. So he injured his collarbone at 17. They prescribed him Oxycontin and Percocet at the same time.
How many years ago was this?
2008? 2008. Or 9, one of those two.
So near, just a few years apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, here's a 17-year-old kid, and they're prescribing him Oxy 40s and Perk 30s at the same time.
Yeah, Oxycontins really came in hard. Like,
yeah.
I mean, weren't they being promoted as, like, you know, like a non-addictive painkiller at first?
Yeah.
You know, that's how they were selling it, and they were literally just selling synthetic heroin.
Yes, essentially. So, like, I found him passed out in the bathroom one time, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Well, then I had found out that he was, like, getting high off of these, and I was, like, betrayed. I was like, you scumbag piece of shit. I hate you. We're done, you know? Because in my head, I'm like, he's doing drugs. And then I was, you know, 17, in love, or so I thought, gag me. I was like, I'm gonna fix him. I'm a fixer. I can fix everybody, and I'm gonna fix him.
Oh yeah, that always works.
Yeah,
right?
It does, especially when you're 17. So needless to say, like it happened a few more times. There were ultimatums, you know, and then literally I still remember the first time I ever snorted a Vicodin. It was with him at his house. He was like, I know you have a migraine. Just do this. I promise you it'll make you feel better. And I'm like, that's drugs. No. And then I did it. Like, even knowing better.
What made you change your mind?
I honestly don't know. I really just think that I let my guard down, and I probably felt like I had been dealing with this fucking battle for so long, and I'm just like, all right, you know what? Because obviously we were still together, and this was after a lot of back and forths, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like, whatever, it's not gonna hurt me. Like, I literally still remember the exact time. And then, like, it continued. I was like, oh, okay, that really wasn't, like, that bad. Like, I'm not, like, a drug addict now, so it's fine. And you get to say that about 4 times before it's over. You know what I mean? Before the next thing you know, it's like, I'm going to take this last $10 and not put gas in my car, but I'm going to go buy 2 perks real quick, and I'll be all right. And then I can't go to work because I don't have these. And, like, tearing your dashboard out of your Integra to find a perk 30 that you lost while your boss is watching. Told him it was birth control. Winning.
Wow.
Yeah. Whole dash.
That's intense.
It was ridiculous.
You know, when it comes to addictions, you know, my story here, you know, I don't know what I would consider myself. I have a very addictive personality in the sense of, you know, if I like something, I'll just, you know, run with it.
Right.
You know, but I also at the same time, I'm able to put myself in check and be like,
yeah, you're level-headed.
Well, sometimes I run things in the ground first, and then I'm like, okay,
don't do that again.
That's enough, you know. But you know, I'm hearing your guys' story, and I'm just mirroring, you know, a lot of you know, moments that I've had.
I still have an addictive personality. Like, now my addiction just comes out in different ways, and, like, I'll own it. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
yeah, mine comes out in podcasts and YouTube videos, and
I'm a workaholic, like, to a fault. Like,
finding exactly, and finding you know, just different ways, you know, to
channel
finding new
energy.
addictions. Yeah, you know, like, but you know, like your story with the Oxycontin. You know how you first got into that. You know, that kind of reminded me of my first time dealing with that, because I didn't know what they were. Found them in my dad's medicine cabinet, and I had some friends that were, you know, it was creating a buzz, and this is about the same time, like 2005, 4,
yes.
maybe even sooner. I can't remember. Like, it's around that same time that they started coming out, and I didn't know about time release either. You know, so I took one. There was no party, and I was never big into parties and, you know, hanging out and doing drugs with friends or anything like that. I was always kind of a loner, you know. And you, as my neighbor, you know that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I was never real people either. I
Yeah.
had like 2 or 3 super close people that, like, we would sit in a room and get high, and that's what we did. But once more people started, I was like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah. I mean, we were neighbors for what, a year and a half before we even talked, because I would just like wave at him and just keep on walking.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Anya bridged that gap.
Anya's a bridge gapper.
Yes. So anyhow, I took one. As I said, I didn't know anything about time release at that time, and I was like, man, this I don't feel anything. So I took another one. I ended up taking 6, and they were 20s, and like then they all hit at once. Boom.
Yeah.
And I was alone, you know, and it was a weird feeling. I felt sick, but I felt beautifully sick.
Yeah.
I enjoyed what I was feeling, and I ended up throwing up, and it was the best throw up I've ever had in my entire life. I was just getting ready to say
that when you said that. Like, I still remember, like, just, like, not being able to enjoy it until you puke, and then once you puke, like, it's go time.
Right.
Everything's soft and
but as I said, I was hanging out with people, people that that were influencing me. Mm-hmm. Again, as you guys said, not to blame anybody. Everyone is accountable for their own decisions, but that's life. You have peers, you have people you look up to, and you're like, it's a tribal situation. Humans are tribal. They run with the tribe that they want to run with. And this crowd happened to smoke pot, and some would do coke, and some would do pills, and to say that marijuana and pot is like a gateway drug is such a simple, thing to accuse. It's a simple thing to point your finger at and say, "Oh, there's it is. That's how it starts."
Reefer madness.
Right, exactly. Reefer madness. We can watch that if you want here in a little bit. But one thing I've discovered over the years is that, or come to my own conclusion of, is I think marijuana is in a situation where it could be looked at as a gateway drug, and there's a reasonable argument for that. But I think legalizing pot will get rid of that stipulation. And the reason why I've always considered this, because I've seen it happen 100 times. I'm like, well, the reason why pot could be a gateway drug is because you're buying your pot from somebody who's also selling other shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's one way that I've always kind of looked at it. Like, you go here, like, well, I don't have any pot, but you want to try a pill? You're like, oh, well, my friends are trying to, that I've always looked at it like, if you took that out of the equation, I just felt, and pot was legalized, and you were buying it from a store in the corner, you wouldn't be.
I feel like bigger than that, though, like, is the gateway drug even really a drug? And that's, like, take the pot out of it. I feel like a lot of problem stems from the stigma surrounding mental health and getting help when you have a mental health issue, because that's huge. I know a lot of people that turn to any type of substance, even non-narcotic, anything, like we were just talking about. Like, I'm a workaholic. I'm anxious by nature, so when I'm working, I'm not focused on what I'm anxious about. But I think that, like, the stigma around getting help, like, if you have a mental disorder, you know what I mean? Like, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was young, and my parents were like, we're not putting her on medication. Absolutely not. We are smarter than doctors. And I could never really, like, function. I couldn't focus on anything. And maybe if I would have felt free enough to speak out about what I was going through and had trusted that I had someone on my side who would help get me to a doctor or a therapist or somebody to help work out what was going on in my head, like, would I have needed a substance to escape myself?
Yeah.
If it coping, like, it's for a lot of people, I can't speak for everyone, but I know a lot of people turn to substances as a coping mechanism, which is why, like, I'm super big into, like, vocalizing things with my own children. I explain to them, like, this is a coping mechanism that's healthy. This is a coping mechanism that's not healthy. When you're feeling this way, you can do this to process that and turn that negative energy into positive energy and turn the situation around, because it's a lack of coping mechanism and the stigma around getting mental health help and what that means that I think a lot of times, not every time, a lot of times leads people to search for something outside of themselves to fix what's going on in your brain.
Yeah, and that ties back, or I feel like that comes along with self-awareness, being aware of your own triggers.
Yeah.
And as you said, communicating with your children to be aware of these triggers, like, listen, you're going to feel this way.
Yeah.
Say your child deals with depression, or whatever. Instead of saying, oh, just
get over it.
Obviously we're in a more woke nation now. People are more aware
Thank
that
God,
these
honestly.
are commonalities between each other. It doesn't have to be the skeleton in the closet as much anymore, and probably even less in the future, hopefully. But I think a big part of that is, communicating with your family and friends and your children, if you are feeling this way, you feel beat down, the world is against you. Listen, that's your depression lying to you.
Yeah.
The world isn't that bad. Right. And you're going to feel like this. Just know that it's not that bad, and be self-aware enough to pay attention to that. Yeah. And it might not be helpful the first go around or the second go around, but keep that in the back of your mind. Hopefully it could be something that can help.
Like, reach out, say, this is what I'm going through. Let's make a conscious effort to get through this together. Like
and find that new addiction that makes that dopamine hit, and your brain, fire off. That's what I get when I do the videos or upload the podcast. I get that, when you guys both agreed to come, I got that shot of dopamine. I'm like, score. All right. I get to come on and talk about something real. Not that my previous conversations weren't, but this is something different, on a different angle and a different view of life. And I was really excited about that. That's because that's that hit that we're looking for. Yeah. So, but sorry, I got.
No, you're good.
Was that a rabbit hole?
No, it was almost a rabbit hole, but I still don't know how you and Bonnie got together.
This is such a beautiful story.
So I had been going to Tony's bar in Newark for a few years.
Did you fight in the street out front?
A few times.
Okay. Then
a night. No. It happened, which Tony's, any bar can be, that bar depending on who's in it. But I had been going down to Tony's for a couple years for their open mic night. Some friends invited me out one night, and I went down.
Was this when Jesse was running it?
Yeah. This is when Jesse was running it, and it was just always a good time. Like Tony's. Then on Sundays, especially, like you just felt like family to people. Everybody was friendly. Yeah. You got good talent. But in that time, there was a lot of drug use for me. I was a bum. I didn't have a job. I would, go down and, hey man, will you buy me a PBR? And I was a bum. I was strung out but anyway, I'm down there one night. It was like mid to late October of 2012. And I'm sitting at the bar, and just to paint a picture, like, I'm in, like, these, I don't even know what type of jeans, but they had, like, these patches sewn into them, and I'm in a Baja sweater that's, like, 2 sizes too big. I've got black leather fingerless gloves on, big bushy beard,
nice. I love
big
those.
Bushy beard, toboggan, hair grown out, and I had been up for quite a few days, I think it was like 8 or 9 days I had been up at this point. And I'm sitting at the bar, open mics going on, and I hear Bonnie singing.
She's got a beautiful voice.
Well, it intrigued me. So, I went over and watched her, and afterwards I talked to her, and she had a boyfriend. And I'm like, bummer, So a couple nights later, well, it was, this was Sunday. So on the following Thursday, there was a little bar next door to Tony's called Budsy's that was a short-lived bar, but they had open mic night on Thursday nights. Well, I went to that open mic hoping to see her, and she was there, and she had broke up with her boyfriend. So I walked up to her and I start talking to her again, and it kind of pains me to admit, but I hit her with a pickup line, and I walked up to her line? And I go, I just wanted to tell you, you kind of look like my first wife. And she asked me how many times I'd been married, and I responded, well, none yet. And we started talking a little more.
That's not too cheesy, right? That's not too bad.
That's
right.
smooth.
I've got worse, trust me. But we start talking a little more, and we add each other on Facebook and whatnot, and we talked over a little bit of time, seeing each other at open mics and talking on Facebook. And then one night I asked her, it was I think November 19th or November 20th of 2012. I asked her, what do I got to do to go out on a date with you. And she said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I think you're a good guy, but people have told me that you're on meth and, you know, this, that, and the other. And I just I can't be with somebody like that. She goes, but if you can prove to me that you can be sober, I'll give you a chance. You know, if you can be sober for 30 days, I'll go out on a date with you. I didn't touch it after that night.
Damn.
Like, I went home. I did not, like, I didn't touch it after,
Is that like
after
divine
that.
intervention?
You know,
what happened?
and it was rough. You know, it was rough on the come down, you know, because by the time this rolls around, I'd been up for a few
2
days.
weeks, yeah.
You know, like, I'd been up quite a while, and that come down was just really fucking hard. But I basically, like, yeah, I was still living in a party house, but I can't blame the party house on my drug use either, because, you know, like, the people there, yeah, every once in a while people would have coke or, you know, something like that, but mainly it was just booze and weed, you know, at that house. Nobody really got down with what I got down with, you know, and so, you know, I basically barricaded myself in my room, and, you know, through her talking to me on Facebook, and she came over a couple times, you know, through in the beginning, and, you know, I got through it, you know, I got through the withdrawals. And, you know, when I started sobering up and didn't want to drink as much and didn't want to, you know, party all the time, you know, got into it with my roommate. He kicked me out. I ended up living with her and her friend, like, what I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks before we even started dating. Like, we were staying at the same place, but, you know, obviously we weren't together or anything, right. You know, not sleeping together or anything. We was just living at the same place. Well, December 19th, which was my birthday of 2012, she came down to Tony's with me for my birthday, have some drinks and whatnot. And I kept asking her, like, are you going to be my girlfriend? Are you going to be my girlfriend? And she was like, oh, I don't know yet, you know. Well, I kept trying, you know, and we had a good night and whatever. And then on December 21st, they were having an end of the world party at Tony's.
Yeah, because the Mayan calendar. Was that
right,
that year?
Yeah. And it was like 11:30, and the band Wet Dog, which is unfortunately no longer a band. It was Jesse Winkler and Spida, John Webster, Matt Hayes, and a guy named Matt Carpenter, I do believe, was in that band. But anyway, they were performing, and it was like 11:30. We're out front in the little cubby, you know, by the stage, and Spida is singing Purple Rain. And she looks at me and she goes, the world's going to end in 30 minutes, so do you want to be my boyfriend for the rest of our lives? You know, or however she said, you know.
So she came around and pulled a line out on
you. Yeah. You know, she was like, do you want to spend the rest of our lives together? You know, and I'm like, yeah, you know. So we started dating that night, you know, and we moved into, we were already basically living together, you know, and then that's what it was. And there were some people that tried to break us up. There was a couple guys that used to come out to the open mic night that would, you know, tell her like, oh, he's just going to end up relapsing. He's, you know, haters. Like trying to split us up and stuff because they liked her too. And, you know, but besides the point.
And you were a known drug addict. I mean,
right. You know,
there is that.
And I don't blame them, you know, because, you know, unfortunately a lot of people do relapse, you know.
And like really in that position, the odds are not in your favor. You know?
Right, you know, but for me it was like I finally had found my reason.
Yeah.
You know, and more than just that, like, you know, over the course of time, you know, she helped me see where I already had that reason. You know, like I had that reason. I had a little sister who needed me when my mom passed away, and I just kind of abandoned her. You know, barely talked to her throughout, you know, the 2 years that my mom passed away. Like I talked to her maybe once a month or something, you know, like because I was too worried about partying, and she helped me see that, and she helped me, you know, she's helped me rebuild my life. Like I owe everything to her. Yeah. You know, and we dated, and it was a year later, they used to do an annual show for Christmas called Santa Jam. And the first year we got together, that Christmas, I rented a Santa suit and dressed up as Santa Claus, and we bought a bunch of Little Debbies. And because I do a rap song that's like a parody of a rap song, and it's called Snack City, and every line talks about a different Little Debbie. So we would, as I rapped, she would throw Little Debbies into the crowd. So
I feel like that's better than
the second year of this, I call.
I still have never heard this. But.
I get my family there. I get her dad comes up from Waverly, Ohio. Her aunt's there.
That's where I went to treatment.
Like everybody's there, and looking back on it, it was kind of corny, but I got up on stage and I rapped Snack City, and she threw Little Debbie's out, and then after the song, I proposed to her.
Wait, at Tony's?
At Tony's.
Oh my gosh.
So, we met at Tony's, we got engaged at Tony's.
Did you get married at Tony's and dance to Purple Rain?
We did not get married at Tony's. We wanted to, but
that
her family was kind of
Right.
We wanted to. But, we got engaged at Tony's, and we ended up taking over the open mic there and ran it for about, almost 6 years we did the open mic. And we got married in 2015.
Nice.
And I really do owe my sobriety to her. And, she always says, well, no, you did it. Like, you're the one that did it. But she gave me that reason to do it, Yeah. And
sometimes that's what people need. They need that, that solid person or thing to hang on to and just be like, if I want to keep this, then, I need to keep myself in check. And it sounds like, your addiction kind of started when your family was splitting up. Like you didn't have a foundation. You didn't have that, and, living in party houses and, just being distant from people in general, it sounds like to you, like you were like, I'm not going to let this go. I'm not going to, go back to that guy. I have something here. I have what I've been looking for.
Right. And for me, it was kind of like it got to that point of like the drugs filled the hole that I didn't think anything else would be able to fill. Like, because I always just thought like I was just going to be alone forever. Because to be honest, like even living in a party house and stuff, like for me it was always like I hung out with a lot of dudes that were like, the pretty boy, the athletic dude, the dude that works out, and I'm just over here like looking like Jabba the Hutt, and I'm just like, going out to the bars and the clubs with all my dudes and them all going home with girls, and I'm just like, okay, well I guess I'm cabbing home by myself, like that was always me. And I always
like, damn, that wife line didn't work again.
Right. I'm like, why didn't
I'm like, keep doing it though, because it's gonna work someday.
Like, what am I doing? But for it was just like I just always felt alone. I felt alone for a lot of years, and I was always the dude for the longest time. Like, I always hung out with girls, but like it was always like, oh, you're my brother, and I'm like, I'm tired of being brothers. Like, like get me out the family zone, damn it. Like, So, for me, it was like I was lonely, and with the drugs, like I didn't see that reason of like, well, you got a reason in family. You got a reason in because you're better than that. Like, you can do more with yourself. To me, it was like going to be alone, so what's it matter? Like, who do I got to please? Like, this is my life. It makes me feel good when I'm high. Like, who cares if, I don't have a job? Who cares if I'm, mooching off everybody? Like, they haven't said anything to me yet.
Right.
They haven't said, no, I'm not going to buy you $1 PBR at Tony's. So why change? Like, why change what's making me happy when I wasn't high, I was just miserable.
Have you thought about ever going back, or like had that urge, or had a tough moment that you really had to work through of going back to your addiction?
For me, I feel like, even to this day, 8 years later, there's times where you wake up and you're just like, man, whew, wouldn't it be nice, or a long day at work, you're getting your ass kicked, you're tired because you didn't sleep well the night before, and you're just like, man, this day'd be a lot better if I had a bubble to hit, like I feel like there's times where I do think about it, but it's just like a distant memory. Like it's just like yeah, I felt good while I was high, but and for me, like it's risking a lot. Like so I can say that I will never relapse, because in the beginning it was hard to even be around people. Like you had said earlier, like you got to cut people off that you don't really want to cut off, because they are good people deep down and they are your friends, you've known them for years, but you got to cut those people off, because if you're around it, there's a chance you might do it. Yeah. But now I think, because especially, being around certain people, and I feel like nowadays, like, the whole cocaine thing, like everybody just does it out in the open and they talk about it like it's, a cool thing to do. Like, I don't know how many times I've been in a bar and there's just people doing lines off the bar.
Well, when you're high on coke, you think that is the cool thing to do.
Right. And for me, I feel like now I can be around it and not want to do it, because I'm to the point now to where, like, yeah, it might cross my mind, like the feeling of it, but I would never go back to it. Like, never.
This is comparing apples and oranges here, but like cigarettes. I quit smoking for 3 years. And didn't look back, didn't think about it. I mean, I've known you for 4 years, I think. And I think you guys caught me right in the tail end of when I was quitting smoking, or when I quit, or right at the beginning of that, rather. And I could be around people and not have an urge. I had no urge whatsoever to smoke around anybody. Like, it just, when I quit, I quit. I mean, I did go through a whole thing. It was like a whole infection, and it helped propel me into that direction. Yeah. But I was very shocked, and I was very happy. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I quit.
You didn't smoke your first cigarette again on my front porch, did you?
What's that?
Did you smoke a cigarette on my front porch?
Yeah. But
was that the first one?
No.
Okay, good.
But in the past, like 5 months, it's creeped back into my life, and now, like, I'm trying to wean it off again.
See, to me, like that, I don't know. That's harder for me.
Well, the thing is,
like, I don't get it. Like, it's, and like, I'm always like, oh, it's because I knew if I kept doing drugs, I was gonna die. Like, if I pick up right now, I'm gonna die. But like, okay, but let's talk about the cancers. Like, that's also guaranteed. Is it cool in my brain because it takes longer and it's like not here right now? So fuck it. Like, I don't know.
Well, like, there's a relief, but there's also, like, it's not like a head rush that lasts. No, it doesn't feel like you're doing a drug. But what I was trying to relate here was, like, that feeling when I would be outside, on the smoking patio and everyone would be smoking, and I didn't have an urge. I was like, I never want to touch the stuff again. I'm like, I felt good. I felt proud of myself, and then
I don't know. I feel that way now, but out of respect for myself and especially like my family, like I wouldn't willingly put myself in that position. Like, I would not walk into a room right now where everybody is shooting heroin and smoking crack and doing meth just to test my own boundaries. Like, I respect myself more than that, just because, like, I am not fucking above, like, I have no desire to use. I don't miss it. I don't romanticize it. It wasn't a fucking good time. You know what I mean? I'm lucky as fuck to be alive, and I know that. But I would not willingly walk into a situation just to test my own limits, because I'm humble. Like, I'm not above saying I know very well that could go one of two ways. I could walk in that room and I could fucking own it like a boss and walk the fuck back out. Or I could walk in that room and suddenly that romantic, like, oh, this is what it was like. And I forget everything I've learned. It goes out the window. I'm high and I'm going to die. Like, so I don't think I would want to do it if it was in front of me. I know I wouldn't want to, like, in this moment right now. But I wouldn't put myself in the position to find out, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like, I've created a life that's not worth gambling with. Like, that's the thing. Like, I had no life. I was escaping from the fact that I had no life. Like, and everybody asked me, like, how do you do it? Like, what keeps you going? And, like, I've created a life that I don't fucking want to escape from. My reality is beautiful today. I don't feel suffocated by my reality. I don't feel out of place in my reality. Like, I don't want to escape from the life that I have. You know what I mean? So a lot of it was that. Like, I didn't feel like I was worth it. Like, when my, like, probation officer told me, like, you're going to treatment, I'm like, listen, I'm not going to treatment. Send me to fucking prison for my little 22 months, and I'm going to get back out, and I'm going to keep doing what I always did, and I'm probably going to die like this. Like, don't try to be captain, you know what I mean? Like, don't try to save my life, because it's not going to work. And he was like, that's exactly why you need treatment. And the last time I ever used was in jail, a couple days after that, and then my ass went to treatment. So, I mean, I genuinely thought that I would never be anything but.
And so, does your journey kind of like mirror Robert's in the sense of like you coming out of that had a lot to do with, you know, you getting married?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, I mean, like,
yeah,
run us through that if you don't mind. Like,
I got kind of like forced into treatment. Like, so I was living with a family member, and I just decided to like help myself to their money. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like I had access to the account, so it wasn't like it was this whole big plot where I was going behind somebody's back or whatever. But I took money that I wasn't supposed to take. I'm not minimizing it at all whatsoever, but without going further into the story, that's what happened. And so when I was questioned about it by a detective, he was like, did you do this? And he probably expected me to try to bullshit him. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, why? And I was like, because I have a drug problem, and that's, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, I did it to support my drug problem, period. That's all there is to it. And so that kind of led a vicious cycle with trying the probation thing. I was not open to the idea whatsoever because I was still very self-important, and nobody was gonna tell me what to do because I was an adult, you know? Clearly a non-functioning one, however, I was one. So finally they got sick of playing with me, dude. Like, and I actually got arrested in Scott County, Kentucky. Worst place I've ever been in my life. Because the jail was like tiny. I was a dumbass, okay? I was in this hotel on the run from probation. They had been driving around where I was staying, like the sheriffs were, and I was like, they're gonna get me. So I just took off to Kentucky, and I was staying in a hotel, and I was super sick. And I asked some random lady in a hotel that I had been at for all of 6 hours if she could get me a Suboxone somewhere. And she apparently called the cops to ask if they knew where there were any Suboxone to find me and where I was at so they could bring me one. And they showed up and told them I didn't have any warrants. I had warrants. So I went to jail in Scott County, Kentucky, and I stayed there for 2 weeks and came back to Fairfield County. And me and my probation officer were cool. Like, some people, like, at this point I had a new one. And so, like, some people really hate them, but, like, I still talk to that man and tell him, like, thank you for, like, telling me to grow the fuck up when it was time to grow the fuck up. Because, like, he helped me, dude. He really did. But I still tried to fight him every step of the way. Like, it was bad. And, they made me go to treatment. Like, I had to go to a CBCF. I asked for prison, and they wouldn't send me to prison. They were like, that's exactly why you need help. And they sent me to treatment. And it was a CBCF, and it was, like, the hardest thing. It wasn't even really, like, the first week, I was, like, middle fingers in the air, fuck everybody, I'm getting kicked out, so I have to go to prison. When you say CBCF... It's a community-based correctional facility. So, okay. Like, there are some rehabs and treatment centers where, like, you're kind of, like, free to do what you want. This one is owned and run by the Department of Rehab and Corrections. So there's 6-foot tall, 12-foot tall electric fences everywhere you go. It actually used to be a juvenile detention center. It's in Southern Ohio. It's called STAR. And like you're locked down. Like, you get locked in at night. Like, it's like jail cell doors. So the first week I was like, I'm getting kicked out, because if I get kicked out, they have to send me to prison. And then, like, after a few days, I was like, this really isn't so bad, but I'm not going to admit that to anybody. I'm still, like, I'm going to hold strong. And then I ended up, like, really just, like, getting the fuck out of my own way and letting it change my life. And it really did. And so when I got the opportunity to graduate, because you have to get, like, selected for graduation, I got the opportunity to graduate, and they asked me, do you want to go home or do you want to go to another, like, a step down? And I finally, at that point, so I walked in like, fuck you guys, I'm going to die like this. And when I left, like, I had the opportunity to come home. The same home I'd been in forever, the same town. And I was like, I'm not ready. Like, I don't want to, because if I made it this far in a program like this, like, I'm talking, like, it was run by a military guy. So, like, if your bed was not made perfectly and your corners weren't tucked right, like, they're going to rip your whole room apart and you better redo it.
Yeah, they're trying to teach you sobriety through discipline.
Yes. So, like, if you spoke out of turn, a lot of people say it's cult-like, and it probably is, but, like, fuck it, dude. Like, I needed it. Like, if you spoke out of turn, you would get put on, like, a silence contract where you're not allowed to speak, and if you do, then you have to go to, like, this table and sit by yourself for 6 hours, and you're not allowed to speak, you're not allowed to do anything. Which is, like, crazy.
Yeah, you went through, like, just, I don't know, a rehab boot camp.
It is boot camp. Like, you walk in a single file line, you're not allowed to turn your head either direction, you're not allowed to make eye contact, like, when you're eating, you're not allowed to communicate, and that includes nonverbal communication, so you cannot make eye contact with the person across from you, make faces, anything. It's definitely hardcore, but the way that I look at it, like, so is my drug use, dude. So anything that anybody would have told me to do in order to get drugs, I was going to do it. So if I can't treat my recovery with the same whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do it, then my heart's not in it. So it was like, shut up and do what you're told. Like, clearly, you need to learn this, you know? So I just kind of, like, shut my mouth for the first time and opened my ears, and it changed my life. Like, it's crazy. Like, the program gets, like, a mixed reputation. Some people are like, abso-fucking-lutely not. And some people can say that it changed their life, and it did.
I wonder what the rates, like, the
recidivism rates?
Yeah, you know, like, how...
I don't know for Star.
How many people, you know, get clean and stay clean, you know,
yeah.
Facility
I will
like
tell
that.
you, there's 93 girls in a pod, I think. There's 2 pods. And since I graduated there in 2016? No, October 2015. There have been probably 15 people that I was there with that have passed away. Which sucks. Like, it sucks to watch, you know what I mean? But...
I mean, I haven't seen any, you know, photos of Robert and his, you know, drug days or anything like that, but I did see a photo of you once.
My mugshot?
Yeah, and that was
gnarly.
Well, I mean, you posted it on Facebook or something like that, and like
people are always like, "That's not really you." I'm like,
well,
yes,
I didn't even know you had, you know, this situation, but I didn't know that you were a recovering, you know, addict of any sort, you know, and I just knew you from across the street. We've had, you know, wine on your porch before, you know, and but yeah, I saw that. I'm like, holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
You know, because as I said, you know, from an outsider point of view, knowing you.
Yeah. Now,
like, I would never have guessed that.
People say that to me all the time. Yeah. Just because, like, I'm a real, like, no bullshit kind of person. Like, I just don't have room for it. And, like, I recognize my own bullshit then. Like, I was a fucking turd. You know, like, I really was. I don't know how else to put it. Like, and it took me a long time, though. Like, it took me a long time to, like, finally get there. Because I was in and out of jail. I violated probation all the time. I was in the drug court program at one point, and I got kicked out because I had been up for a couple of days, and I was doing bath salt because at that time they couldn't find it on a drug test. So I was doing bath salts.
Bath salt? What's that like? What's that high?
Well, it's not like the bath salt that you go buy at Walmart, but like there was a place on Livingston where you could go buy bath salts, and it wouldn't show up in a drug test. And it's like meth, but weirder and harder, and I don't know. But I decided that I would start calling my drug court probation officer at 8 o'clock in the morning and leaving him voicemails like, "Ha, I see you in my driveway, trick no good, come knock on the door if you want to know something." I was clearly, like, tweaked and, like, I was envisioning things, but I was convinced. And so, like, he had texted me back and said, "Stop calling me or I'm going to come and arrest you right now." And I was like, okay, well, you're only in my backyard. Like, come on, bring it.
But he wasn't.
No, he was not there. I'd just been up for days.
You're just wigged out of your mind.
I had been up for days. And, like, I still remember the spot where I thought he was standing. Like, and so...
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Like, but
it was legit. Like, I literally thought that. Like, I had told all my friends, like, Duffy and the judge are, like, in my driveway right now. I'm freaking out.
Yeah, I've actually experienced something similar. You know, I've never really full force into any certain drug, but I have dabbled in quite a bit, you know.
Right.
It's just how I am, you know, like, you know, I've dabbled with, pills, and I dabbled with heroin like
Right.
17 years ago.
Right.
I dabbled with coke, and all like short stints.
Yeah.
Only thing that stayed with me is alcohol and weed, and weed not very often. But the point of my story is, there was one guy when I was doing cocaine for about, I think I did for like 3-4 months, and this guy, his parents owned a laundromat, or how do you say it, laundromat?
I always say laundromat.
Yeah, I got corrected like a few years ago that
Right.
it's laundromat, not laundry
Why?
mat.
I'm not doing my laundro. Like, I don't understand that.
So anyhow, so we would actually just hang out in the back of his parents' laundromat and just do coke and look at fucking porn magazines and just like shoot the shit and do nonstop. Like a helicopter would we're in Columbus, helicopters fly by all the time.
The birds.
But a helicopter would fly by and he would like, see that helicopter, man?
Don't make eye contact.
He's like, that fucking thing flies about this time every night, man. They're scoping me out. And like in his mind, he's dead fucking serious.
It's real.
He thinks the
Right.
police are scoping him out and spending the hundreds of thousands of dollars of
Right,
fuel
to
that takes
fly
to
their helicopter.
fly their
for
helicopter
him.
so they can look at binoculars and
Yeah.
look at him through the window. But he
Right.
was dead set. He knew that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
And whenever the helicopter came by, we had to hide behind the fucking wall.
It's really like
Yeah,
that, though. But
that's-
you believe it. Like, I legitimately believed a group of my friends was going to kill me one time. Like, I thought that they took me out to this farmhouse. Like, looking back, everybody was just out there getting high on meth, which is an important part of why this was like this. But I thought everybody was just, like, everybody was getting high at the time, But we're all out at this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, and I was like, this is it, man. Like, they're going to kill me. They're literally going to kill me. And one of my other friends was like, shut the fuck up. Like, nobody's going to kill you. And I was like,
That's
no.
exactly what you would
That's
say.
why you guys keep going in the kitchen and whispering, because you guys are trying to figure out how you're going to do it. Like, they dropped me off after, like, a day of trying to deal with me. Like, because I wouldn't stop, like, for a whole day. Like, I was, like, looking over my shoulder, like, just do it. If that's what you're going to do, just fucking do it.
And you were all doing meth?
Yes. And so, like, after, like, a day, finally, one of them literally dropped me off in my mom's front yard. Like, you have got to get the fuck out. Like, nobody's trying to kill you. And my mom's like, what's going on? And I was like, they were trying to kill me, but I caught them, so they just dropped me off because I ruined their plan. Like, I was dead serious,
I wonder what that looked like to your mom, like seeing you.
Probably no
like
different
that.
than all of her living room furniture in our front yard at 5 o'clock in the morning because the floor was dirty. Yeah. Like, it's really...
You sometimes get to the point, especially on, being up a few days,
Yeah.
like paranoia definitely sets in.
Yeah.
Like I've had similar things, like be hanging out. I used to hang out with this girl, and she had a brother who actually lived out here at the lake, or out at Buckeye Lake, and we would like run stuff for him. And he would give us free meth, for running. And every once in a while, he'd invite us over for a get-together. And it'd just be, 8, 9, 10 people sitting around smoking a fucking fuck ton of meth. And you get to a point to where, especially like for me, because I didn't really know any of these people, you'd sit around and you'd see somebody looking at you and you're like, they're as twacked out as I am. And I know I get feeling crazy, like... It could be a matter of moments before one of them snaps and we're in a, until, to death fight.
Yeah.
And you just get paranoid. You get feeling like everybody's out to get you. And with the cleaning thing, you get, nothing can be clean enough.
No.
Not, especially when you're, you ain't got nobody to hang out with. You just hit a bubble. You're sitting at home. What else is there to do but be up moving around? And sometimes the only thing to do there is clean. Yeah. I can't say that I've ever moved a bunch of furniture out of a room, but Did
you do it by yourself? Did you move all the furniture?
No, there
by
was
yourself?
somebody at my mom's house with me, and my mom had tile floors, and they were grouted in between, and the tile floors were like ivory, but the grout had turned gray, and it was fucking irritating me. All I saw was this grid everywhere I looked. I could see these gray lines that didn't match, and I was pissed. Like, internally bothered about it. And I'm talking like couches, TV stands, fucking lamps, everything was in the front yard. And she woke up at 5:45 in the morning like, what the fuck are you doing? And, like, me, my manipulative, addicted ass was like, you should be grateful that I'm cleaning your fucking floor. You know what I mean? Like, I got mad at her for getting mad at me, because who doesn't take all the furniture out at 5 o'clock in the morning?
So,
like,
your family in particular, like, were they, how did they handle your addiction? And also, to piggyback that question, is like, was there a situation kind of like Robert's home life? There was, a disruption that kind of may have triggered, his addiction.
So, like I said, like, when I was younger, like, I would, like, smoke weed and stuff like that, but that wasn't, whatever. But, and I think, so I had, like, the Vicodin incident had already happened, and it was, it wasn't an all-the-time thing. And then my parents had been married for 25 years. I'm an only child. That was what I knew. And then, sorry, Mom, my mom cheated on my dad and told me about it, and was like, don't tell your dad. I was like... Yeah,
How
so,
old
like,
were you?
fuck me, right? 21.
Well, I mean, you're an adult. I mean...
Yeah, I was still living...
It's tough,
but it's like betrayal either way, you know what I mean?
'Cause you're living at home.
So,
Sure.
like, I'm like, okay, so if I don't tell my dad, like, I'm a real big asshole. If I do tell my dad, I'm betraying my mom. So, if either way, somebody's going to get fucking hurt. Do I betray someone in the name of good and honesty? Or, you know what I'm saying? Do I hold someone else's secrets, which was kind of fucking unfair. So... Needless to say, like, my dad ended up finding out, like, with a mix of, like, me and on his own. And my parents split up, and my mom started dating his, for not even a lack of better words, there are no other words, he was a piece of shit. And so that happened, and, like, the next thing you know, like, this dude was in my mom's house that my mom and dad had lived in for 25 years, and just, like, kicked me and my child out, like, some fucked up shit, and I just, like, I didn't care anymore. I didn't, you know what I mean? Like, that was it.
But at this time, you're already headed down your spiral.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So like, I was working on it, and then when this happened, it was just like last straw, done.
Yeah.
So it was, I guess it is a very similar situation. I was just a little bit older, but I don't, like, especially, like, I don't know.
Well, if you don't mind, at one point in time, you told me you had gotten wrapped up in sex trafficking.
Yeah, essentially, like, so what?
Does that correlate with the drugs? Was that?
Like, oh yeah.
Okay.
So like, I can't talk about as much of it as I want to right now because of, like, legal proceedings that are happening.
Going on, right.
So I can't really, like, mention, like, specific names,
Oh,
details.
no,
I can
I
talk
wouldn't
about
even
location.
ask you to.
No,
Yeah,
I know. I'm
not.
just saying, if I'm very vague, that's why. So I had, like, title loaned my car. Bought another one because, of course, I didn't pay the title loan. So I bought another one, and I ended up losing that one because I got pulled over on the way home from Columbus one night. And somebody I was dating at the time was driving, didn't have a driver's license. They impounded my car or whatever. So I lost my car, and I ended up going to Columbus with one of my friends, just people that I already knew who I had bought drugs off of, you know what I mean? And I just kind of got, like, stuck up there because I wasn't going home regularly anyways. And it was the middle of winter, west side of Columbus, and, like, there's bandos everywhere. So, like...
Bandos?
Abandoned houses.
Okay.
So, like, I mean, if you're willing to kick a door in, there's not a shortage of places to sleep. It's just gonna be cold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've not me personally, but I have a friend who is also an addict. I'm not gonna mention his name here, but he spent many a nights in abandoned places. So, like, it kind of ended up like that, and then I was in an abandoned house one night asleep, and, like, people came running up the steps, and they were like, Carrie, I'm, like, talking a whole bunch of stuff, and, like, I ended up getting punched in the face, and then somebody looked at me and was like, oh my god, I'm sorry, you're not Carrie, and I'm like, no, the fuck I'm not, but thanks, you know what I mean? So then I figured out that, like, maybe I shouldn't be sleeping in abandoned houses by myself on the west side, so I ended up staying with the people who I had, like, bought drugs off of for a while, and then I didn't have any place to stay because what drug dealer wants a freeloading drug addict sleeping on their couch? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got a few minutes and then get the fuck out. I mean, if anything, that's the conflict of interest.
Right.
Yeah.
So I ended up essentially still homeless. Like, I couldn't go home to, like, what was my home, so I was stupid. Like, I grew up out here. Like, I'm naive as fuck. You know what I mean? I guess not so much anymore. because if anything, I question everything too much now. But then, like, I was super naive, and somebody was like, I will give you a place to stay. I'll help you get back on your feet. And I'm like, yeah, it's fucking freezing. Like, let's do this. And so then it was like, I'm going out of town. You have to stay with another one of my friends. And this friend was like, I'll get you hotel rooms for a couple days, like, just so that you're not out in the cold. Like, very, like, you think it's genuine, or at least I did. And, like, the next thing you know, like, I had gotten an email. There was an ad of this person had taken my Facebook picture and put it on Backpage. And somebody had emailed me about it and was like, is this you? And I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't know how the fuck this is even happening. You know what I mean? And so...
What's Backpage? I don't know.
It's nothing now. But back then it was almost like Craigslist, but it looked like Craigslist, but there was, like, a whole adult section where, like, people were sold, but you'd never put it like that. Like... There's a whole lingo, like, we could get into that, like, how it was able to work.
It was basically a speakeasy of sex trafficking.
Yeah, marketed more towards, like an escort page. Like,
yes.
you're not...
Gotcha.
You would click on escort.
You're not paying for sex, you're paying for, company.
The company and whatever
happens
But
you know what
you
know what you're getting.
Right.
So, like, that whole, like, profile thing came up, and then, I'm trying to, like, I'm gonna try not to say names because I keep thinking of names, but I ended up, this person was like, hey, there's another girl that's gonna come and stay with you, whatever, and she needs a place to stay. I was like, okay, well, it's not like it's my hotel, like, whatever. So she does it, and she starts bringing people in all the time, and I was like, oh, like, I've never seen anything like this before, you know what I mean? I'm like, what the fuck? So at that point, it's like, I either go on the streets or I just turn my head the other way. And so I was just like, do you? Like, I didn't, in my mind at the time, not understanding what I understand now about human trafficking, coercion, like, I was like, obviously, if she wants to be doing this, like, that's her business.
That's her choice.
So, and, like, we were getting high all the time. You know what I mean? And then, I ended up getting introduced to somebody else because this person was going out of town. So me and this girl were going to go stay at this other hotel room. And that person took my cell phone. And, like, immediately, I had, like, a whole different set of expectations about what I was expected to do. And I'm like, I don't fucking need your hotel room that bad. But at that point, I was not able to get out, because there was a person by the front door who, like, literally would sit. You know how there's always a chair in a hotel room? No. Like, he'd sit, even if he was sleeping, like, sitting in front of the door and with a pistol in his lap. Like, you weren't leaving. And the next thing I know, there was more girls in the room. And even at some point, like, this guy's girlfriend looked at me and was like, what the fuck are you doing here? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't want, you know what I mean? This is not what I thought was going to happen. And she was like, you need to go the fuck back to where you came from because you'll die out here. Like, what do you say to that? You know what I mean? So.
And are they keeping you regularly, high at this moment, or?
No.
So,
I'm, like, lots of dope sickness, like, a lot. And so that's part of the coercion. Like, they know that you're addicted to drugs, right? So they're going to get you in that room, and then they're going to wait until you're real sick enough to be like, okay, I'll fucking do it. But that, like, I didn't get to that point. You know what I mean? And so there was, like, a lot of sickness. And I think at that point I had seen a lot because, like, there was, like, physical abuse, like, all the time. I was still at the point where I'm like, not doing nothing. So I rode with that guy's girlfriend one time to pick up her, not Xanax, Valium prescription. And she, like, gave me Valium. She's like, you need to chill the fuck out. And I'm like, just let me out of the car. And she's like, I can't let you out of the car. Then I'm going to get my ass beat. You know what I mean? Me being scared, like, I didn't know what to do in that situation. So this only went on, like, this whole situation. It was very short-lived. It didn't last but a few days, and it was constant, like, every single day. It was a different part of Columbus, like, a different, like, going to a different hotel. And I really honestly think that 2 reasons I was kept around was because, A, I saw what was going on, and nobody wants somebody to talk about that situation, right? And they thought that I was going to do what they wanted me to do, because it had only been a few days, so, like, we'll keep working on her. So I kind of felt like my only way out was to, like, agree to it, because there was, like, a system. So everybody was in the room all the time. But if somebody showed up for a date, then whoever else was in the room, you went and hid in the bathroom. So there was like many a times chilling in the bathtub, you know what I mean, while someone else is doing what they're doing, and then everybody comes back out. So I knew, because I didn't even have my own phone at the time. Like they had my phone.
They took it from you.
Oh yeah. I've still never seen that phone again since this night. Like, had everything on it. But I figured out, like, I haven't been by myself not one time since all this started, but every time someone agrees to do something, they're by themselves for a minute. So I was
when somebody agrees to do something, like you say, everybody hides in the other
bathroom.
room, and that includes the guy with the gun.
Yeah, for two reasons. Because A, they're not going to take everybody out of there, and because he's like watching us anyways. While this guy goes and he's doing his drug runs and doing whatever he's doing, you know, this person wasn't the person running it, but he was there. He was an enforcer. You know what I mean? So like everybody goes in the bathroom, and then if something goes down, he's right there with a gun. He can jump out of the bathtub and take care of whatever had happened, which I had seen people get threatened with it before. You know what I mean?
Were they very intense with it? Was it like a? I mean, it's a guy threatening
it was
with
a
a
show.
gun.
Like, you knew it was there. And
yeah,
like, I remember,
I'm imagining like movies, gun pressed against the temple really hard type of shit. Yeah,
we were at a different hotel one time, and this girl, he said that she lied about the amount of money that was left with her, and he beat the fuck out of her in front of all of us. Like, we were literally forced to sit on these two queen-size beds next to each other and watch him beat the fuck out of her. And then he turned around and he said, "Anybody else want to play this game?" So it was very intimidating. It was very mental. Like, you knew, like, one wrong fucking move and that's you. Yeah. And it was rough. But like this, I was like, okay, like if I do this, then
I'll be alone for a
minute. So I was like, all right, great, let's do it. So we're at God, I don't know if it's gonna give away too much.
You don't have to go.
We were at a hotel on the far north side, right off of 71, that night, and I'm like, okay, like this is because we were at a different hotel right before that, and there was the BP across the street, and I had stared out the window like, okay, how fast would I have to run to get down all of these steps and into that BP? Because I know if I got to that BP and I told him what was going on, somebody's going to call 911, right? But it's also close enough that he could find me. So I stared at that BP for like 2 days. And then we moved to another hotel where nothing was close. And I was like, all right, there went my shot. And I think like the feeling of like, fuck, motivated me in a way. Because I was like, all right, yeah, let's do it. And so all this was set up by not me. You know what I mean? Even when there was females talking on the phone, pretending it was his girlfriend who would do all that. And I will not forget it. Like, the person texted and said, "I'm here." Everybody went in the bathroom. I opened the hotel room door, and I looked at him, and I said, "Can you give me a ride?" And he was like, Like, he immediately knew what was going on. And he was like, And I was like, "Then get the fuck out of my way." And it was literally like 6 inches of snow. I remember nobody was on the highway that night at all, which was weird because it was 71. It was like 6 inches of snow, solid fucking ice. I'm in my bare feet and shorts and a t-shirt. And across the street was another hotel. It's not a hotel anymore. But you know how
it was a hotel at the time.
Yeah. You know how there's like those hotels where it splits in the middle and there's always like a pop machine or whatever?
Yeah.
Well, like, I'm running and like
it's a breezeway.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I knew it wouldn't have been long before they figured out what the fuck was going on. You know what I mean? Because they're in the bathroom. They can hear what's going on. I'm sure they heard me running down the steps. So I took off running. And I'm running on this side of the hotel, and he's running on the other side. And I looked over, and I saw him with the pistol, and he's running this. He didn't know I was on this side, so he's running looking for me. And he found me in the middle of the road. And I had my phone, because when they went in the bathroom, they left my phone on the nightstand. I had grabbed my phone before I ever even opened the door, because I knew what I was about to do. Like, it was like, die or die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I knew what was going to happen, and I'm dialing 911 like as I'm running, and I actually had to re-listen to the audio recording of this phone call like 3 months ago, and it was gut-wrenching. Because, I mean, this is 5 years ago now, you know? Like, I've done my best to, like, internally heal from it, and so I'm running, and he tackles me, and he pistol whipped me. And I'm on the phone with 911, and, like, at this point, the phone is under me. He's on my back, and, like, the phone is under me, and I'm screaming.
He doesn't know you have the phone.
No. I'm screaming, "Help me." And like I said, there's, like, inches of ice. Like, nobody was on the freeway. And this guy got off at our exit. It was a white Durango. And at that time, I just remember looking up. And it's, you know, it's weird not seeing any headlights at all in 71 in the middle of the night. Like, that's not normal. And I just knew I was alone. Like, this is it. And the next thing I know, like, somebody had gotten off the exit and was driving real slow, and he had me tackled in the middle of the road. So this person physically could not drive down the road because he just pulled up on this. And he let go of me and took off running. And this person pulled up, like, as soon as he took off running, person's still in the car, I got up and I ran to the hotel across the street, and I'm, like, buzzing. And the north side of Columbus, you don't get in a hotel if you don't have a room there. And I'm like, they're like, can I help you? And I'm like, I need to come in. Like, I need you guys to call the cops. Because he took my phone once he realized what we were fighting over. Because I knew I couldn't let him see it. And then once we started fighting, he saw it. So I didn't have a phone at that time either. And so they're like, I can't let you in. You don't have a room here. And
so you come running up to this hotel, screaming, you know, this man is after me. Yep. He's attacking me. Mm-hmm. Did you tell him that he had
Absolutely.
a gun and all this stuff?
I said, I need somebody to call the cops. Please help me.
And all they could respond was,
I can't let you in. You don't have a room here. 2 seconds later, I'm standing there, like, looking over my shoulder, obviously, because, like, I'm about to die. Like, this person had already bragged about how they assisted in the death of somebody else before, which, whether that's true or that mental manipulation, I don't know. 2 seconds later, someone walks back up behind me and they push the button and they said, Mom, let her in. She's not kidding. I just watched the whole thing.
So that was the person in the Dodge Durango. That person
that pulled up was coming to pick their mom up from work because she was too afraid to drive home in the ice because the roads were too bad. So he had come to pick his mom up for work, and that's the only reason that he was in that area at that time. Like, I still wish I could find this person and shake his hand, because he that's my higher power. Like, that's the universe. Like,
that's that. Yeah. What is that? Divine intervention.
Yeah. Like,
you know, nobody's on this freeway, and you happen the one person that happened to be on the freeway.
It was February 13th, 2015.
Is the child of the person who wouldn't let you into the hotel.
Yes.
That's intense.
They let me in, locked the doors. Columbus police shows up. And I ended up having to go to the hospital because at this time, like, I had a huge infection in my arm. Like, I still have a scar from it and everything. And I went to the hospital, and I was there for a few days. And, like, I still didn't quit using after that. Because that experience alone, like, I didn't go to Columbus anymore. I just came out here and used. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So, like, after that, you spent time in the hospital. They obviously made sure that you were physically okay.
Yeah, I AMA'd, though.
You what?
I AMA'd. I left the hospital against medical advice because I was detoxing so hard. Like, I couldn't do it.
That's where I was headed. I was wondering how long it was before you took off. And
it wasn't very long because they were really trying to send me a treatment. I really wasn't trying to go at that time. And so it wasn't. So that was February 13th, 2015. I got questioned and got, like, arrested on October 7th, I think, 2015. So there was, like, a period of time after that that was not good. I had violated my probation or my bond before that, and, like, my best friend died, which is weird because, like, he died on May 29, 2015, and my official clean date is May 29, 2016. So it's like, once that happened, I had literally just gotten arrested, like, that day. And my mom came to jail, and she was like, hey, Chad died. And I was like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? Like, that was another one of those divine intervention moments because, like, this is somebody who had tried to help me through recovery before. Like, he was fighting his own battle, and he had really tried to save my life, and I wasn't having it. And so, like, if I would not have been in jail when he died, I wouldn't, you know what I mean? Because that one hurt. Like, that was the first one that I was like, yo, my life, like, this is fucking crazy. And so
you just, from that point on, like, you said you went to jail, and is that the time that you used in jail, and then they sent you to the...
Yeah. So I think I said earlier that I graduated treatment in 2015, and that's not true. It was October 2016.
All right, well, so anybody listening, run back and read the tapes. You know, listen to the audio and let us know. Sorry, my janky ass lighting system just fell. All right, do you guys want to take a quick break here? Sorry, that was really intense, and I think we could stretch our legs a little bit.
Sweaty.
Maybe we can come back and tone it down a little bit. Let's end on a high note. So, all right, guys, we're gonna take a little break. It'll be instant for you, so we'll be right back.
Okay.
Check. All right, so we were 10 minutes into a very deep conversation about you know, life after drugs and uplifting and things changing and happening and life is great and fun and grand. And then I realized I had the whole fucking board muted for 10 minutes. You know, you guys are the 10th podcast in an interview, and it's the first time it's happened. My bad.
Hey, shit happens.
Yeah, it does. Apparently,
no worries over here.
It sucks because we had a really good conversation. So I'm just gonna try to skim over what we talked about real quick.
Yeah.
You know, about how when you escaped, you know, the sex trafficking situation, how, you know, your first, you know, you did it to. You wanted to live. You wanted to live for something, and then you went to the hospital and immediately turned around and went back to drugs because you were going to, well, as you said, die
on my own terms.
On your own terms. And, you know, we talked about that's how intense and a drug addiction
I feel like that's why people call it the grip of addiction. Like, it really is like a grip. Yeah, it's beyond all logic. There's no logic. You
just escaped from this, you know, this.
But it was okay because I was only going to get high at home. I wasn't going to go there anymore. So, you know, like, that was the logic in my head. Yeah, your
justification. I mean, I believe drug addiction is justification after justification.
Oh, yeah. All the justification.
Right. It wasn't necessarily the... I mean, and maybe I'm wrong, but it wasn't necessarily the drugs that got you there, but more the scenario you were in. Like that. That's how I feel. Like, you know, you might have a bad scenario, a horrible scenario happen to you, but like, yeah, in the long run, the big picture, the drugs did that, but it was also the scenery, the people you came across, and, you know, if you stick to where you're comfortable, you know, it wasn't the drug that was the problem, it was the people that was the problem. You got put into a bad situation. Sure, the drugs are to blame, because if it wasn't for the drugs, that situation would have never arose.
Right.
But also, you know, that situation could have arose. Came around.
There's
you know,
hundreds of thousands of people,
because you never know. Yeah. You know. So
that's what kills me the most. Like, people think that human trafficking is like a creepy guy in a white van or like shoes outside of it. That's not what it is. Like, it is people who you believe are your friends in that moment. It's people who are offering to help you. And that's what coercion is. And people don't realize that people are trafficked more often by people that they are familiar with than they are by strangers in a white van.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were saying, you know, in our muted podcast when I forgot to unmute the recorder, but you were talking about how, you know, the person who was leading this, you know, him and his girl had a very you know, I forget what word you used, but like, they were happy, they were doing their own thing, living the life, and she would pretend to be, you know, the girls when the Joes would call, you know, looking for a hookup, and that was their thing. You know, and they were living this normal ass life, and I would, you know, and you're right. That's not every person that's in a sex trafficking situation is addicted to drugs. You know, that's not. At least, I mean, I wouldn't assume so. I mean, I've known other people that have been in that situation, and they're not that I know of had, you know, drug addictions or anything like that. So I don't know. There's a double-edged sword here when it comes to, you know, well, you were put in that situation, or you put yourself in that situation because of drugs, but it could also happen outside of drugs.
Like, listen, sex work is the oldest industry. And so there are people who willingly enter that. And, like, that's not, you know what I mean? That's not my business. I'm not gonna, if you're, you know, not addicted, not under the influence at all whatsoever, and that's what you want to do to make money, that is none of my business. But the people who are coerced and in it against their will, that's a whole different story, because when someone's in it against their will, I mean, it's literally a fight for their life, because someone else controls everything about you, like down to when you can go to the bathroom. So, I mean, like, it is double-edged, because people automatically hear sex work and think that it's trafficking, and it's not always trafficking. It's, you know what I mean? There are illegal brothels. Like, people aren't being forced to work there. That's their choice. But when it comes to people who are being trafficked against their will, like, that's a whole different a whole different scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, like Robert pointed out earlier, you know, the escort services.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are people that are doing this willingly.
Yeah.
You know, like they, you know, they're protected. They're working for a legit business, and they, whatever happens when you're out with them, that's no one's business. But you know, those two people. But you were in a completely different situation, and you know, and you have somebody literally at the door with a gun.
Yes.
And well, I'm glad you escaped that situation. I'm glad you not only escaped it, but then also managed to flip your life around a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
that night with the Durango was like the first of many like punches in the face from the universe. Like, are you fucking done yet?
Yeah.
And then it was like 2015. It was like a series of like, are you fucking done yet? And then it got to the point where like, as cliche as it, like you surrender, it's just like, fuck, like, all right, let's do something different. Because I wanted to die like this. Today I don't, you know? So.
Yeah, it's funny that I don't know exactly what to think of when the universe gives you signs, you know, like you shouldn't be doing this, and you know, or you know, you get squeaked out of a situation, you know, just like perfect timing on certain things, like you in the Dodge Durango.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know, like I might go down. I'm trying not to go down a rabbit hole here, but like
rabbit hole.
I think about like stuff like that, and like
it really,
why, like, is this something that I'm deriving my own opinion from? Like man, you know, there's no other reason that this wouldn't have happened unless there's like some sort of intelligent design behind it or whatever.
I am a firm believer that there is no such thing as a coincidence. Like if something appears to be a coincidence, like you need to step back and take a look and figure out how everything aligned for that to happen to you. Like, what does that mean for you? Because in that moment, like me choosing that exact moment to run, him tackling me in the middle of the road and pistol whipping me, if he would have tackled me in the parking lot, that Durango would have turned right into that hotel and never saw me. Yeah. Never.
Right.
So,
if you would have been 10 minutes earlier, half an hour later, you could have, you know.
That was one of those things where the universe is like,
crazy.
Like it everything just aligns, and like I never really got super into it until I started looking back, and like I was like, damn, there's a lot of fucking almost in my life, like a lot of almost, and like, what does it mean that they're almost? You know what I mean? And so like I genuinely, like when I see something from the universe, it's like ironic to me. I'm just like, all right, I see you. Like, all right.
Right.
Like I mentally buy into that shit, and there have been too many things that have happened in my life, and especially with my recovery. Like, dude, since I got clean, those things happen all the time. And it's almost just like the universe, like, I got you.
Well, it's, you know, it's definitely a different mindset.
Yeah.
You know, like, with the way I could compare it, like when you get a new car, you know, a car that you never driven before.
You see it everywhere.
You see that car everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So when you start looking at life that way, you start seeing it that way. You know, but so it's very easy for me to like, and I'm not naysaying anything or downplaying. Like I'm genuinely curious of like, is there really something, you know, like an intelligent design that's making, you know, life or whatever, the connectiveness that we are, that puts these signs out there that we need to catch.
Yeah. You
know, or is it just one fucking good ass lucky coincidence? You know, like it's tough. Like it feels greater to say like this was done for a purpose.
Yeah.
You know, but then I don't know. But then you think of, you know, like people who weren't so lucky.
Yeah.
You know, in situations like that, and like, what, did they miss a sign? Were they just not lucky enough? Like,
yeah.
You know, like these are the things that go through my head.
But
like,
you know what though? Like when I have
negative
or like unfortunate things happen to me, like I can allow my brain to go there and look at it as negative and unfortunate, and I can get stuck in that spot.
Yeah.
Or I can use that as motivation. So I'm not saying that when something horrible happens to somebody, they deserved it and they just didn't use it as motivation. That's not what I'm saying. But there's an ebb and flow in life. Like, things are good and then they're bad, and they're good and they're bad. And if you don't, like, that's where go with the flow comes from. And it's going to sound so cheesy, but that's what it means. Like, if you get stuck in that ebb and let yourself get pulled back, you're not going to move forward.
Yeah.
So, like
if you wouldn't have decided to run at that moment, you know, not just, you know, he could have tackled you in the alley back, you know, back that way or whatever. You could have decided to run 30 seconds later.
Yeah.
You know, like something like that. Like, so your decision, you know, like, was the right one at the right time for all this, all these other things to fall in place. I wonder how many times that happens, how many chances people have, you know, like, to make those decisions, you know, to make this, like, if you would have ran, you know, a minute earlier, a minute later, you know, there could have been a whole different scenario set up to also make that successful for you. Yeah. You know, to get you out of it. It's weird.
Well, and I think that could go into that, like, that gut instinct too, you know. You know, with a lot of situations, you know, you get a gut instinct, but a lot of people like to hesitate on it. A lot of people like to say, well, you know, I could, but should I? You know, or they hesitate, and then I think that's where, you know, it comes into, you know, some people don't get that chance. Some people aren't, you know, I guess you'd say lucky enough to have that sign be shown, or that coincidence, that, you know, thing that happens because maybe they hesitated, or, you know, like, you know, 5 minutes too late. You know, if you would have been 2 minutes too late, or if dude would have been late showing up to the hotel, like, you know, it would have been, that Durango would have been gone. You might not have seen another car, you know. So it's
But that's one of the things that affirms my belief that the universe, like, in that moment, like, every scenario that could have gone wrong, to change that didn't. And so that's one of the things that, like, affirms, like, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know. I call it the universe. Like, some people call it whatever they want. You know what I mean? Like, that's one of those things that it affirmed my belief, because I'm just like, okay, that literally just by variable alone could have happened, like, billions of different ways. Yeah. But it didn't. It happened like this right now. And so, like, I continued to use for a few more months, but then when I looked back on it later, I was like, that moment right there told me that I'm not supposed to die like this. I'm being kept around for more. So, like, do I flip the bird to everything that came together in that moment for me to make it and keep doing what the fuck I'm doing? Or do I nod my head and take that as a sign that I'm meant for more and go do more? You know what I mean? Like, and I guess that's just the way that I choose to look at things, because, like, the way that everything fell together for me to make it out that night, for me to continue to just do the things I was doing and not see that sign for what it was, it's like a slap in the fucking face. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I guess, like, I don't know.
Well, and now, you know, like, what I guess what people would consider, you know, something I'm supposed to, you know, live for a better purpose. I'm supposed to have a better purpose in life. And that could be anything. I mean, just living a life. Right. Just living a life, you know, you, like, it's not, oh, I'm going to be an astronaut, you know, like.
No, for me, like, the greatest thing in my life, like, I have these things that are amazing, like, you know what I mean? The greatest thing for me is being a wife and a mom. And some people don't want to just settle at being a wife and a mom, and they want to be more, which is absolutely respectable and understandable. But when you come from where I came from, I never thought I would be a wife. I never thought I would be a good mother. You know what I mean? Yeah. So for me, that's fulfilling. Everything beyond that is extra. Everything beyond that is just icing on the cake. But that, like, to be able to sit here and say that I am a mother and I'm a good mother and my kids are taken care of and I'm a wife and I have somebody who genuinely loves me for everything that I am, like, that's it. Yeah. Everything else is extra.
Right. And those extra things are falling into place. Yeah. For you, you know, like, as we discussed during the muted conversation, you know, you started your own business now. Yeah. Which is in Millersport. Mm-hmm. what is that?
I own a photography studio. It's called the Memory Guild, and so like everybody was like, how did you end up doing photography? And like looking back, like, and I kind of got into this when we were muted, but so I
throw it in my face.
Right. I'm just gonna say it one more time in case anybody missed it. I got a job. I came home. I got a job. I was working 60 hours a week. I was doing great. I fulfilled my legal obligations. I got off probation. I was a mom. Like, I was doing everything that I was supposed to be doing for like 2 years. And let me sum this up really quick. I was petty, met my husband because he was my son's baseball coach, and I didn't say anything to him the whole season. There was a parent party. We hung out. We were the last two there, and then he added me on Facebook, and a couple days later, he changed his relationship status to in a relationship, and I sad reacted it because I'm petty. And needless to say, a couple weeks later, we got together, and the first time we hung out, I told him my whole entire past, and I told him, like, if you absolutely don't want anything to do with me right now, that's completely fine. I will not be upset if you get up and walk out. Like, that's a hard thing to take on. And he said, like, why would I get up and walk out? Like, that's not who you are. I cried. I got pregnant, like, pretty fast, and we got married after we were together for 6 months. People thought we were insane, but I never wanted to get married. Like, I just never did. And when I met him, I was like, I don't know, like, I was kind of notorious. Like, when I would be with somebody when I was done, like, I was just like, ew. Like, I was not, you know what I mean? I was not, like, super relationship-y. And I would self-sabotage a lot, like, and talk myself out of relationships. And when I met him, it was completely different. And I just knew, like, as cheesy as it sounds, and it drives me nuts to say that, like, I really did just know. Like, he was my person. And when we got married, he got me a camera for our wedding gift. And, like, that was one of the things that had survived, because, like I said, like, before this addiction, like, I always had a camera in my pocket. Like, I took people's senior pictures my senior year. Like, I was just always taking pictures. And so,
capturing the moments.
Yeah. And so, like, when he got me my camera, it was like it was in my hands, and I was like, duh. Like, because, you know, I got a job, all this stuff. I was going through the motions, but, like, what was left of Mindy? Like, outside of all of that, like, moral obligation, like, where was my individual, like, what was me? And as soon as I got that camera back in my hands, I was like, damn, like, this was me. And so it really, like, gave me an outlet to get that creativity out. And, like, I just genuinely, like, fell in love. And I realized that this was a part of me that had been missing for so long. And so, like, I obviously started out doing it as a hobby. And then, like, I was just like, dude, this is, like, I don't want to go work for somebody for $12 an hour for the rest of my life. Like, and it was hard for me to find a job anyways because of my record. Like, I got sick of getting turned down constantly. And so, like, you know, when you're self-employed, nobody cares about your record. So, right. It was kind of like, and as dumb as my whole story may sound for the whole entire, like, thing of all of my unintelligent decisions, like, I'm not an unintelligent person, you know what I mean? So, as much as I had to focus on, like, the art side of things, like, I also really had to focus on the business side of things and make sure that I wasn't going to sink all of my time and energy and money into something that wasn't profitable, and I had to make it make sense. And so it blew up. Like, I started, like, just, like, getting more clients all the time. And now, like, 5 years ago, I wasn't allowed to have a key to my own house. And today I have a key to a business with my name on it.
Yeah.
And that's wild to me. Like,
yeah, because your studio, it's like it's actually, you rent out a space in Miller's Port, and people come to your studio and do and take photos.
Yeah. So it's a completely different life today than I lived 5 years ago.
And that's amazing. That's a success story. You know, just like Robert. You know, like, you know, you and Bonnie running the open mics, you know, at Tony's where you guys met, you know, for 6 years. That's quite the accomplishment. That's, like, not just an accomplishment on your end, but, you know, the people you've met and the story.
Oh yeah,
you sharing your story and all that with these people. That's such a beautiful thing to come out of that situation. and I love your story. Like, your story just tugs at my heart. Like, just Bonnie telling you, like,
get that a lot when I tell the story, because a lot of people, like, I don't always just bring it up to people. It's not like I walk around and just say, hey, you want to hear about my life, but when people ask, and a lot of times it's brought up, when talking to people who are talking about drug addiction and, stuff like that. And I have a chance to say, well, let me tell you how my life was, or, and I get that a lot. I'll tell you one of the people that I think that, I had the most joy of telling my story to, just because of the reaction of it. And him and his family also have a beautiful story in their life, not with drug addiction, but a beautiful story. And that was Gene Harshaw. The first night I met him at Barrel Bar, open mic, it was one of your open mics. The first time I met him, and we were in conversation, and somehow it got brought up, and he was just like, and we talked about life, and he said something to me, and don't quote me on it, because I might not say this.
Well, it's being recorded, buddy.
Exactly like Gene said it, or with as much as because I feel like every time I hear that man talk, it's just like a motivational speed. Like, he's one of my favorite people.
Yeah, Gene Harshaw. He's actually the father of another musician, Zane Harshaw. So you have Gene and Gwendolyn Harshaw, which is the mother and father of this very spectacular musician. Zane.
Phenomenal!
He's on the spectrum, but he plays phenomenal guitar, and they actually have a band of autistic.
That's awesome.
Musicians,
That's
and it's called Blue Spectrum, and these people, they fucking kill it. Continue with your story. I want to try to find a video of Zane for her to see. I don't think she's ever seen Zane.
But we're sitting there talking, and something, and I think about him saying this all the time, because, he said, well, because with my story with Bonnie, it started because of music. Music is what brought us together. And, he made a comment, and he goes, well, he said, it sounded like, your life finally began that night. And he said, and that's the beautiful thing about music. He goes, and if you really think about it, life starts with music, because, your life starts when your heart starts to beat. And, the beat, the sound of it, that's music, that's a rhythm, and he's like, your life started that night, and I really do believe it did, because now, 8 years later, sure, I remember everything from my past, but sometimes I'll just be sitting there, and it's like, was I alive?
It doesn't feel like you're thinking about a stranger.
It does. It feels like I'm, recalling a movie I seen, or a book I read or something, and it's just so like.
There's Gene, Zane, and.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think one thing I really like about your story is also. You said, at the beginning of this conversation, that you're, my ex-boyfriend, I thought I could change. I thought, he's a work in progress. I forget the exact words you use, but
I thought I could save him.
Yeah, that's it. I thought I could save him. And Bonnie was just like, well, can you save yourself?
Yes.
Right.
That was a big,
when people would
thing.
ask her, and even to this day, when people ask her, or I even ask her, because I'm going to be honest, like, I am not an easy person to be with or live with. Like, I'm very hard on myself still to this day. Like, I have, I battle depression. I'm very hard on myself, and I sometimes question, like, how does she put up with me? Why does she put up with me? When I wake up every morning, I'm grumpy. I get irritated. I get, I'm not the most romantic guy. I'm not,
Well, that's your
not
opinion. I mean, that's
right. Well,
that's your insecurities.
But it's true. Like, I'm not the perfect husband. I'm
but
not
you're
the best
worthy
husband.
of that to
But
her.
you know, so I find it a lot, you know, and I've asked her, people have asked her, you know, like why did you, you know, see this guy who was strung out, who had nothing, that, you know, no car, no job, living in a party house, you know, just on drugs, bumming, couldn't even afford to take her on a date or, you know, anything really, like, you know, why? And you know, her response always was, because the first time I talked to her, you know, she said, through all the, you know, the wide eyes and the glassy eyes, and I seen a good person in there, you know, and you know, not to get into too much detail, but you know, Bonnie's had, you know, to be more grown up than, you know, because she was 19 when we met. And, you know, more mature than, you know, most 19-year-olds, because she's experienced, you know, not with addiction or anything. She doesn't, never
she
has
has her
done
own story,
anything.
yeah.
But she's got her own story, and she's been through a lot of,
Her
you
own
know,
battles.
turmoil and, you know, loss of loved ones and, you know, whatnot. So it was for her to even want to give me the time of day, to this day still, like, just blows my mind that, like, you know, and sometimes I feel like I got comfortable, you know, because in the beginning I was, you know, the boyfriend that was, you know, romantic and always showing love, and, you know, over the years of being married, it's just like, man, like, what am I doing with myself sometimes, you know, like why am I the way that I am, you know, like. And for me, I think it stems to, like, you know, I watched my mom and dad not have a perfect relationship growing up. And, you know, I feel more and more I'm turning into my dad. And then I beat myself up over everything I do. And, like, if I do, you know, I wake up grumpy and I'm grumpy with her. And then it's like I get into a mood because now I'm like to the point to where, man, I messed up, but I don't know how to express emotion very well either. You know, I'm very like...
And Bonnie's over here just like, okay, you done yet?
One
Can you
of
come
our
cuddle? You know, she's just waiting for you. She's waiting for you to work through
one
your own
of our
shit, man.
biggest arguments is like I'm still like to this day, like I'm the type of person, if I get a thought in my head, if I want to do something, or if I want something and I can't do it or I can't have it, it bothers me a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
And I find myself getting very tied up into the materialistic world too, you know, like in social media. I try to stay off Facebook a lot because, like, I see people going on trips and buying the new PlayStation and getting a new car and doing this, and I'm over here and I'm like, I can't afford any of that. Like, how are these people doing this? And it angers me. And when she asked me what's wrong, I'm notorious for doing nothing, it's fine. To the point to where she knows something's bothering me because she's a super empath, you know, like she's a super empath. So like she feels my mood, but I'll say nothing until the point to where, you know, we're not fighting, but, you know, she's crying because she just wants to know what's wrong. And then I finally say, and it's just something dumb. Oh, well, I really wanted to go to the bar, but you wanted to go to sleep,
really
and now I'm
PS5.
pouting. You know, and I don't know why I'm that way. You know, I try so hard to be different, but like, you know, I think it stems to, you know, a little bit as well, like all the years of drug use and, you know, like just the materialistic aspect of it and the wanting to do things. As I spent a lot of years not having money to buy anything, not having a car, not having a license. I didn't have my license for 16 years. And I've got my temporary permit now. Like, gotta have a licensed driver, but hey, I'm getting there, right. You know? And like, it's hard because like, I want more out of life materialistically, but really I'm super content and I'm super blessed for what I have now. And, you know, because I might not have a lot of money, I might not have a brand new car, I might not own a house, or, you know, have the newest game systems, or, you know, this, that, and the other. And sometimes it really bothers me. And it makes it really hard to put up with me. You know, and I don't know how she does it.
Well, I mean, you...
But I'm also very grateful and very blessed for what I do have. I have a wife that loves me more than I ever thought anybody in this entire universe could love me, and she
And there's
has
a lot of people with
sacrificed
PFIs out there that don't have that.
right, and
Right.
she has sacrificed so much for me. She lives 2 hours away from her dad. She went on lockdown at her job in this pandemic after only being there for 4 days to be able to make money to get my license back. Like,
remember
she
that,
has sacrificed a tremendous amount of time and energy and, being away from her dad for me. And I'm forever grateful for that.
I had somebody once say something so simple. It might be a common phrase I just never heard before or whatever. But we got in a conversation similar to this, talking about being addicted to materialistic things and all that stuff. And this girl looks at me and she goes, I've never seen a hearse carry a U-Haul.
That's valid.
Right. And like that has always stuck with me. Like,
Right.
That's so fucking true.
Yeah.
It's so fucking
And
true.
then it's like looking at like what does wealthy mean to you? Like,
Right.
I'm rich as fuck. I only have a
Right.
few bucks, but I'm rich as fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like my life is wealth abundant in the way that I have everything and all of the people that I could ever need to help me, to love me, for me to love them, because like I said, like I'm that person. I want to be there for everybody, and so like I have people in my life to exchange love with, because it's not one-sided, But I'm like I always try to keep the mindset that like even when I have nothing, I'm richer than a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so like it's
God
gnarly.
damn it, Robert.
But
Yeah, that's probably going to sit there until we're done.
I don't know. What's kind of odd is like I don't know if even the mics picked that up, so people might just randomly wonder why.
I don't know. It was
just
kind
yelled
of
at you.
like pingy, so maybe it might be
maybe.
there.
That's my insecurities coming
Yeah.
through. Everyone's just gonna
drop
Their
Lid to my
shitty
soda.
podcast.
this fucking shitty podcast with this shitty host.
I dropped the lid to my Mountain Dew Zero that you guys would have knew about if we weren't muted for 10 minutes.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, there was a whole conversation about Matt. You guys really missed a fun conversation, But we're just gonna have to keep that one with us guys.
Right. It was a good one.
Well, I'm sorry. We got interrupted.
Did we?
Yeah, but
Sorry.
his rude
Yeah.
bottle.
Oh yeah,
Cat
no.
trolling
I
my
mean, I was
cat.
just saying that like that's another thing that I think is really like I don't know. It's all in a mindset. Like
Yeah.
Like I'm driving a minivan. I never even wanted to get married. Okay, I'm driving a minivan. So here I am, like 5 kids, married, minivan, whatever. But like, oh my god, I would literally like think before like, ugh, never want to be that guy. But I am that guy, and it's fucking awesome
Yeah,
because I not only do I drive a minivan, but like I have fucking 5 awesome kids to fill it with, and like an amazing husband to sit next to me. So it's like you just gotta like. Nothing in life is perfect, man. Fuck social media. Let's start there.
Right.
Fuck social media.
Yeah,
Because on social media, everything's perfect.
It's a poison.
Nobody's a fuck stick. Everything's great. Except for fucking the guy with 2 wives and 15 girlfriends. Jason Collins, is that his name? Please tell me. All right.
No idea.
Oh, no.
Wormhole, not gonna do it.
Not got that.
But you can Google his name. Anyways, everybody, like,
What's his name?
Jason Collins. Don't do this right now. Like, okay.
On Facebook.
All you have to do is put his name in because he literally just went viral this morning. Is a fucking mess. Okay, he was married to 2 women in 2 different states. He's
Please continue with it. I'll look for it. I'll find him.
All
I'll
right.
find him.
So, but like everything on social media looks perfect. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
like look at it this way. Like, although like somebody got that PS5 and that's great, but did they rob somebody to get it? You don't know that, right?
Right.
So what the fuck did it cost them?
Right.
Like, are they not paying their rent this month so that they could get a PS5?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, of
so you
course.
never know the backstory to something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Like-
There's one thing that I've really grown to like respect is the simpler things.
yeah.
And like just earning things.
Yeah.
There was a point in time in my life where, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, but first part of my life, I had the great job, and
Yeah.
you know, I got married, and you know, we had the white picket fence, you know, dreams and all this stuff, and all that shit went away. And when it did, I just kind of went on this rediscovery thing.
Yeah, like
but
you were.
I was, but I didn't have a foundation. I was jumping from, you know, friend's couch, in the basement, and then, you know, I had a 3-year relationship with a chick. I stayed in her bedroom with, you know, like in her dad's house, you know, like,
right.
And we lived that way for 3 years, you know, and then, you know, like, actually becoming a musician was just a pipe dream for me. It was something that I could never actually obtain. I didn't even own a microphone at the time. I didn't even have a guitar besides this little shitty broken one in here.
Right.
You know, that was the only guitar I had, you know, and so all these things, like I would see people on stage with stage lights and all this stuff, and I'm like, how do they have the money to do this? You know, I'm working, but I'm not making that much money, you know, and like seeing all these things, and like you, Robert, I would get envious, you know, and I would fret, and I was like, well, why can't I have that, you know? And I don't know. When I moved here out to Buckeye Lake, it was on just a whim. It wasn't supposed to happen. My good friend of mine, Terry Douglas, another musician, you know, he really helped me out. He's like, hey man, I'm renting this house, but I'm moving in with what is his now wife. He's like, so do you want to like just pay, you know, throw me a couple bucks for rent so I'm not paying the full amount until you figure your shit out? I'm like, sure. And then I came here and I'm like, holy shit, I have foundation. I have something that's you know, like of course I'm like it's being handed to me through Terry at this moment, but it's something. And then he's like, hey man, I gotta get this lease out of my name. I have somebody who's interested in the house, but I'll give you first dibs. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to afford it, but I'm going to take it. Right. You know, and I made myself afford it. Mm-hmm. Right. You know, and like literally first 2 years I lived here, I had what do they call it? The couches that turn into a bed.
Like a futon?
Yeah, I had a futon and like a little TV out there.
Why does that sound like crouton? I don't like that. Anyways, that really just irritates me. I don't know why they sound the same.
So I had a crouton futon.
Right.
Crouton futon.
You know, and like this was storage. You know, like I had an air mattress. You know, that's just how life was for a little while. You know, and I don't know, when you get used to the simplicities, you begin to like, you know what? I do have enough to get this microphone now. You know, it took me like a few years, and I worked my ass off, you know, building my music stuff up, and you know, and my point is like that little stuff that I would sit and be envious about, you know, especially like from someone who had earned it. I can understand. I'm not saying I'm successful in any sort of way, but on the other side of where I was, like
I still
the
feel
fact
like
that I'm sitting in this room.
Sure.
What's that?
I said I still feel like you're successful.
Maybe.
Right.
But the fact that I'm sitting in this room, 3 microphones, you know, the whole lights, all this stuff, like it's all blingy.
It's not a pipe dream anymore.
Shiny shit, but it's like
you're doing what you love.
There's stories behind all this shit. There's stories that like. And these lights here, they're fucking car lights. Right. They light up, you know, and you put in your cars and stuff. But these were my stage lights when I first started playing music. Yeah. You know, and now they've graduated or went down the list to, you know, lights I just have in my studio because I just had them because I was able to afford stage lights. Right. You know, having those enjoying those simple things. Like, I remember when I first got these shitty ass lights, how proud I was. Yeah. Like I got stage lights, and like thinking of all the shitty ass shows that I put on with these lights, like, oh my God, I can't believe I used these lights back then, you know? But I don't look at it that when you're in that moment, you don't look at it that way. You know, like when you got I'm sure you felt this way when you opened your studio, you know? Yeah. Like, you know, who knows, like 10 years
that was like similar to your futon thing though. Like I've been looking for a studio, couldn't find one. Because under like $900 a month, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I literally got a phone call and was like, hey, somebody was supposed to sign a lease on this studio, but they didn't show up. So it's yours, but you have to come sign the paperwork tomorrow. And like I literally took every dollar that I had, plus a couple from my mom.
Yeah.
And signed a lease. Not with on a pipe dream. Zero idea how I was going to do it.
Yeah.
But that was another one of those moments. Like I'd been looking for a studio. I already called about this place 2 weeks ago, let it go because it was supposed to be getting leased out. And I was like, okay, like this is getting put in my lap for a reason. Am I going to make it or break it?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was like, and now
exactly.
when I can buy the dumb little shit, you know what I mean? Like I'm getting a sticker for my window. Not important to anyone else. It's important to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, like, to know that I took every dollar that I had and sunk it into that place just to get the key to the door with nothing in it. You know what I mean? And, like, it makes it different. Like, it really does.
Yeah, it does. And I think where things started building up from that is when I realized when I sat in that living room with nothing, when I just sat in there with nothing and I felt like a fucking king.
Yeah.
I felt like a king. I felt like, you know, this is, I have a home. I have a foundation. Yeah. I have something. This is, anything above that was extra. It was, this to me was great.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that putting yourself in that sort of mentality is what can lead you into better things, you know?
Yeah, and I'm getting there, you know. I'm not as bad now, you know, and I still get in my moods, you know, where I'm like,
I'm sure we all do.
Especially with sound equipment and stuff, you know, looking and seeing, you know, the XR18 or whatever, you know, and you're just like, I really want that. But how many hours of overtime do I have to work to be able to get it? Too many.
I have a picture of a $3,000 camera hanging on my just a picture that I printed off the internet because I'm manifesting the fuck out of it. Like money is gonna come to me. I'm fucking worth it. But like, like we all want. You know what I mean?
Continue talking. I have to pee really bad, and I don't want to pause it because you guys are just chatting away, and I love it. So I'll be right back.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not as bad with the materialistic stuff now, but I still get in my moods of like, man, I just want more out of life because I went so long without any of that. You know,
that's like the perfect thing. Like, stay hungry for it like that, because if you lose that hunger to want to make more out of your life, you won't. But if you stay fucking hungry for it, and then in your mind, you know, like, I fucking deserve this and I'm worth this. Like, if you stay hungry for it, you can get it. You know what I mean?
Like, I've been trying to appreciate the little stuff. Be grateful for what I have. You know, I have a roof over my head. I have, you know, I'm one step away from fully having my license back after 16 years.
Dude, that's a good feeling.
You know, so I'm definitely, you know, moving up. Yeah. You know, so you know, I'm trying to appreciate the simpler things, the smaller things in life, what I do have, you know, because I have way more than a lot of people have.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
Know, but still, like, I'm like, man, I want to make more money. I want to be able to do what I want to do, and that's fallen into place, you know, like
you're like about to become with the GM, right?
If all goes as planned, you know, and this isn't the first time they've brought this up to me and it's fell through. But, you know, if all goes as planned, that should be happening within the next week or two.
Yeah.
You know, so things are falling into place, and, you know, and going back to Donato's was kind of,
bittersweet.
I didn't know if it's really what I wanted to do, but I had to get out of the other job, you know, because I was with Donato's for 7 years and then left.
You got to take
chances.
And
decided to go back because they hit me up and needed a manager, and, you know, decided to go back on that. And, you know, because I had to get out of the other place, and now there's talks of maybe a big promotion, and that's a big step. You know, that's, you know, going from, don't really want to say what I pay, but not much, to even better, you know, like way better. You know, you know, so I have a lot of opportunity with that, and, you know, I enjoy doing the pizza business. Like, a lot of people hate the food industry, especially in something like that, and it's stressful sometimes when you get, you know, your ass kicked. But, you know, it's also, it's an easy job. You know, nothing about that job is hard. Stressful at times when you're getting, you know, ticket after ticket after ticket after ticket, and you just want to take a break. You got to pee, but you can't leave the mate table. You know, It gets stressful at times. But man, that job, I can make pizza with my eyes closed. You know, I've been doing it almost my whole life. You know, in pizza shops. So, you know, it's a great opportunity, and you know, the guy I work for, he's super cool. Like, I could call him right now, you know, and say, hey man, I'm in a pickle. I need, you know, $500 to fix the car in the morning. And he'd be like, okay, where you at?
Yeah.
You know, and he'd bring me money. You know, so, you know, I work for a good guy, and, you know, and everything. So
see, that's beautiful things you have. I mean, that's things that a lot of people with all these materialistic bullshit don't have.
Right.
That's why they need that materialistic crap.
Right.
You know, I mean, you're very fortunate.
Oh, definitely.
You're very fortunate to have people like that around you. You know, I mean, I wonder how many people envy you and you just don't even realize it.
Right.
You know, grass is always greener, right?
Right.
So, well, guys,
I envy your cool ass jacket.
No, thanks. You know what? The only thing that makes me mad about this jacket, I bought it at Gabe's in Zanesville, and it's a 4X, but I can't button it. It doesn't button. It's a 4X. I'm like, I typically wear like a 3, but, you know.
Right.
Oh, is it one of those Abercrombie and Fitch's 4X's?
Right,
No,
so it's like a medium.
The only thing I can wear from Abercrombie and Fitch is their cologne. The only thing that fits.
Oh, that's good stuff. That's big guy problems right there.
Right,
man.
no doubt.
Mindy didn't know me when I was bigger, but
yeah, it's a rough world out there for a big dude, you know.
Well,
I always say, you know, it's so cheap to get big.
Yeah.
But once you're big, it's so fucking expensive. Like, you know, I got to pay $5 more than everybody else for my pants.
Yeah.
You know,
I will never understand that. Like,
and
okay,
then,
I get that, like, the justification's always like, well, it uses more fabric. Okay, but you can't tell me that you're not fucking upcharging your fucking cost
Right, you're already making a shit ton of money off
so that
of
you
it.
don't have to pay $3 extra for your t-shirts. Get the fuck out of here.
More. That's basic gist.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
You can complain about it all you want. It's the bottom line is money.
You know, and I'm gonna say something, and I know you said you don't care about the explicit stuff, but this is something, and this was years ago. This was like 10 years ago. Maybe even a little longer, but Spencer's in the mall always has like the, you know, the shirts with all the sayings on it and everything. And I got so mad in there one day because I'm in there looking around and I'm looking at the t-shirts, and I wore a 3X back then too, you know, because it was like at the start of the meth use and whatnot, you know. So I was still a big dude, you know, about the size I am now. And I'm in there and I'm looking at the shirt, and they had a shirt with Buddha on it, and he was holding a rooster, and the shirt said, I may be fat, but my cock is huge. And the biggest size they sold it in was a fucking large.
Ouch.
They had smalls, mediums, and larges.
At least they had smalls.
No. It's
and I'm like,
the shirt says
I know, I get that. I get
that. Like, and I'm like, how in the hell do you guys sell this in a small size? Like, but I've always had an issue like buying clothes, and you know, like shirts, especially pants, they're either too long or they don't fit around the waist, or you know, it's rough out there for a big dude.
It is, man. When I first met you, I was almost 100 pounds heavier than I am now. 4 years ago. That was tough.
It is.
It was tough. I remember the moment it changed for me. I was at Meijer in Hilliard with my mom right around Christmas time, like 2018, and maybe 17. I can't remember. Yeah, 2017, and I was trying on a pair of pants and they were size 44s. And I was just graduating up to 44s. And I was so disappointed in myself. And I've been wearing like 42s like tight for a while.
Right.
Right.
Get 'em,
Right.
And then I put on these pants and they were size 44 and they were tight. And I was just like, I was defeated. I just sat there.
Right.
I was so defeated. I just sat there and I was
I
like,
feel that.
I looked at, my mom was with me and I said, I can't do this anymore. So I don't want to feel like this anymore.
Right.
And I went and bought gym shorts instead. Well, not instead. I needed new pants. So I got those pants. I still have those pants. Well, I just threw them out like a month ago. But, yeah, and that's when I made the choice, the decision just to stop eating like a slob. Number
Right.
one, but then I'd exercise, and start hiking and all that stuff. And the weight just kind of shredded off pretty quick. The first 25, 30, 40, 50 pounds, but then the other 40 pounds took a little bit more time, but yeah, and I'm still like probably a good 30 pounds away from where I want to be.
Right.
But I'm far away from those 44s, I'm back down to 38s, and that feels good,
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't know how to feel if I could fit into a 38.
Well, if you want to find out, I mean, do whatever makes you comfortable, man.
Right.
That's just my story.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I got triggered when you said you couldn't do the coat. Like
Right.
that's how I felt with those pants. I was just like, oh.
I get it. Been there, because I have that issue. Different brands too. I'll buy a 44 in one brand and they'll fit fine. Buy a 44 in another brand and I'm like, wait, did I put on weight? Like, what happened since the last pair of jeans a week ago? Like I know I ate McDonald's twice this past week, but geez,
Well, I mean, I'd say the biggest thing was just changing my diet completely.
Right.
Like no fast food, and just stop eating the fried foods and the crap. And I also basically lived off soup and sandwiches, like homemade soup that was nothing but like fresh vegetables.
Wait, what do you put on a sandwich? Just wait, you don't. Okay, hold on. I need to know what you put on a sandwich because
I'm vegetarian.
Yeah, so like no cheese, no. Is it just bread? Do you put
I'm not
ranch
vegan.
dressing on it?
I'm not vegan, I'm not vegan, but I didn't eat cheese for a year and a half. I eat cheese now that Anya has.
So do you just eat cheese sandwiches?
No.
No.
When I was a vegetarian and I didn't eat cheese, I wouldn't consider myself a vegan because I'd still eat eggs, and about once a week I'd order a cheese pizza because I had a cheat day.
Right.
But my average sandwich was I would take avocado, I'd take avocado and I'd scrape it out and I'd use that as a spread on the bread, and then I would onions, mushrooms, tomatoes. I would buy vegan.
It's a salad sandwich.
I would buy vegan like sausage or something like that, and I'd cut it up, put it in there. I'd put egg in there. I would meat it up, or it would be meaty. I'd put thick slices of tomatoes, but I was very adamant: no cheese, no dairy, no tacky stuff, no
shit.
No goopy stuff.
Yeah.
Stay away from the goopy stuff. So
Avocado's kind of goopy. Yeah.
You're thinking of guaguacamole.
Oh yeah. That's okay.
Well, it's
not derived from the same thing.
Same thing, right?
So I worked at
Same thing,
Taco Bell.
different form.
There's a big difference between guacamole and avocado, and that's about 6 ingredients. Avocado is just avocado. Guacamole has about 6 other ingredients in it.
Yeah. Potato chips, French fries, it's the same thing.
Right.
Right. Well, I stayed away. The only time I'd eat potatoes was in my soup.
I will tell you though, some of that plant-based meat is really delicious.
Okay, Anya made me eat the fake nuggets, and they were
that's
good.
weird
I
for
actually
me to
looked
say,
for them
but-
last time I went to Kroger, and I was like, I don't remember what fake, because I'm weird about chicken. Like, we don't eat chicken at my house anymore because The last few times we've gotten any type of chicken, whether it was breaded, raw, whatever, like, there's too many veins, there's too much stretchy stuff, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And so, like, well, I mean, we'll eat canes, but we won't make chicken, because it's just weird. And, like, I was literally looking for those meatless chicken nuggets the other day, and I was like, damn.
Yeah, Kroger frozen aisle.
What are they called, though?
Well, there's an actual section that's just vegetarian.
Yeah, I know where it's at. I couldn't figure out. There was too many different kinds, and I'm like, I want the
there's
ones
too.
on
You're just gonna have to ask her to send you a photo
They were good.
or something.
They were super good.
I'm the same with you. Like, I have a hard time finding shit over there because the whole like meatless meat thing is fairly new to me. Like, I did buy this, the little sausage things, but like, there's this little end cap at Kroger. It has like vegan crap in it.
Yeah.
And that's just all I would buy. But yeah, when it comes to like, vegan chicken and vegan beef and all that stuff, like, I'm kind of new to that stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe because it's not great for you. I mean, people always like, oh, well, you must be eating healthy. You're eating that vegan, black bean burger. I'm like, well, no, this thing's still like 280 calories. It's just no meat. It's just full of vegetables and oils to hold together, and oils are not healthy for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyhow, for me, a lot of my weight was lost just eating clean. Eating clean was it.
It's not even healthy, just clean.
Well, I mean, clean is healthy. I'm talking about like when I first started losing the weight.
Yeah.
I would not keep anything dairy in the house.
Was that like a huge transition for you though? Like, did you like almost like did it frustrate you to like think about the foods that you used to eat, and like did you know what I mean? Was it like a mental battle? Like, man, I really want this.
Sometimes, sometimes the meat not so much. The meat was actually surprisingly easy to get rid of, but the meat wasn't for a health decision. It was for a humane decision.
June.
I became a vegetarian and got June on the same day.
I love it.
Yeah. And
I would never. Just for the record, I would never eat June's bacon ever.
The decisions were planned to coincide that way. It just happened that way.
Go on.
Yeah.
Go on. So, are you telling me that the universe placed June in your life, and then also had you become a vegan in the same day, and now your life is completely different years later?
I made a decision to be vegetarian the night before. Mm-hmm. I had already gotten rid of beef and pork in my diet. Yeah. Because I felt bad for eating intelligent animals.
Beef's the only thing I could never give up. I could give up pork because it's like I don't do a fat and meat at all.
Yeah, I
weirds me out.
I just didn't want to eat intelligent. I knew these animals were smart, and they knew that they were being slaughtered, and that they knew that when they were in that line to being slaughtered, that the things that the other cows and pigs in front of them were also being slaughtered. Like, they knew that was happening because they would try to escape. Yeah. And they'd get prodded back into the situation.
I can't. If I were to sit down and like genuinely think about where all the meat that I consume came from, same thing.
Well, out of sight, out of mind.
But it's willful ignorance.
That's why you don't see slaughterhouses on the side of the fucking freeway.
I'm willingly ignorant to the fact of what's going on, because if I were to think about it, like, ugh.
Yeah, it's out of sight, out of mind. That's why you don't see slaughterhouses.
Yeah, I agree with you, though. I don't think I could give up beef. One thing, like, I wouldn't be able to give up like cheese and stuff. Like, you take cheese away from me, and you might as well just
like the shredded mozzarella.
Yeah, if you would have told me, I was going to be a vegetarian, 1 year before I wouldn't have believed you. Yeah. If you would have told me I was going to stop eating beef and pork, 3 days before I did, I wouldn't have believed you. It's just something. There was something that clicked in my head.
Yeah.
And it started with beef and pork. I was like, I can't eat these animals anymore. And I even made jokes. I was like, I don't give a fuck about birds. I'll eat birds all fucking day. Turkey bacon.
Birds
chicken.
are just dinosaurs.
Well, then I started giving a shit about the birds. Yeah. And then it changed, and then I couldn't do fish anymore. Like, just my mind changed. Like, it was something that I couldn't really help, but like, and there's sometimes, like, even to this day, where I'll fuck up. Like, I'll give in and I'll have a chicken sandwich, and when I do, all I can see is just fucking these things getting their throats sliced. I can't help it.
Yeah.
And it messes with my head. So like, the day I decided to go full vegetarian, I just happened, like I decided the night before, but the guy down the road had 3 pigs, and I just happened to ask him if one of them were for sale, and he said, yeah, here, you can have this one, $75, very cheap price. And he says they won't get any bigger than this, and the size of a fucking...
She's a huge bitch.
Yeah, she's a fucking hog.
Yeah.
He was telling, this is one of those mini pot bellies. Okay, I got catfished into that one. So, yeah.
What? Well, funny story. I got sucked into his garage one time.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, listen.
Crazy dude.
I was like, hey, here, this lawnmower's broken, but I know that's you fix things, you make your money, whatever. Go ahead, have a great time. Here's the lawnmower. Wish you the best. And like, he was like, look at this, and brings me this can, and it was all of the gold that he had mined out of TVs out of the trash.
Out of what?
He got TVs out of the trash and like mined gold out of them, and like he had like a mason jar with like aerators in it and like all these tubes coming out of his ceiling to aerate the TV gold. It was... Casey's like, I was wondering what took you 20 minutes down there, and I was like, I got lured into the garage. He's like, good job.
Yeah, he was.
He's a nice guy. Don't get me wrong.
He wasn't all there. Definitely, he's. Yeah,
I did learn that day that's a real thing, though. Like, and it takes like an intense, like a crazy amount of work to get the tiniest bit of gold from TVs, but that's like a thing. Yeah. Like I thought he was just like, I'm like, this guy really thinks there's gold in TVs.
Well, you can pull gold out of poop.
Yeah, I'm cool.
There's a whole thing for that. Like, there's scientists that are...
There are also people who put drops of urine into their eye in the name of health. So there's things for everything.
Well, no, I mean,
that
like,
shit's weird.
like honestly, if you go into the sewage system, like they can filter out
in a scuba suit. No.
What?
What? You were?
No. I mean, like,
scuba suit.
I don't know how it's fucking done. I'm not a goddamn scientist. All I know is that scientists are pulling out like tons and tons of gold out of people's feces a year.
How? Like, are we eating it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, when you think of iron, and
I don't really
how much iron is in shit. Like that's a mineral. I mean, that's same fucking thing your pan's made out of. That's iron.
I made a cake in my cast iron skillet the other day. It was the best cake ever.
That's iron. Like this is
that's
stuff that we consume all the time.
Well, they better start giving me a share of my gold then.
What? You got rid of it, man.
Right.
But it's star stuff. We're all made out of star stuff, and shit like that is what proves it.
Yes, which is why it is not far out to believe that the universe is somehow working in your favor. If you
or its own
are
favor.
A cosmic
it might
being,
be a selfish thing. The universe is just experiencing itself subjectively through us. We are the universe. The universe is us.
Yes.
We're all the same thing. We're
I mean that's how the Buddhists believe it. We're all just one, one complete system. That's
Well, yeah, it makes sense, and
yeah,
that's the most reasonable. I mean, my favorite, theoretical physicist is Carl Sagan, and he said, he goes, I don't really believe in religion, but if I were to believe in a religion, it would be Buddhism, because if science proves something wrong in Buddhism will change.
It honors the science. Yeah.
Not just no. He's saying, like, if science proves that that this aspect that Buddhists believe in is wrong, Buddhists will change because science proved it wrong, and they'll change their views and aspects. Unlike other religions like Christianity, you prove that the Earth is a little bit older than 6,000 years, and they don't. They won't change. They won't. That's
right. It's all made
that's
up.
in stone. No.
Yeah.
It's God damn it. It's in the Bible. Can't you read?
Right. They probably wouldn't say God damn it first, but.
Oh yeah.
And besides, God didn't damn it. The beavers did.
I just feel like everything's like super Kevin Bacon. Like everything there's like
Kevin Bacon.
Okay, like there's
6 degrees of separation.
6 degrees of separation. We are literally all connected, and that's what cracks me. I'm not gonna get a wormhole. That's what cracks me up when people think that there are crazy
we're
differences.
In the wormhole. That's where we're
so
at.
deep right now. That's what kills me when people think that they are so different or so far superior than other people based on the color of their skin, their sexual orientation, whatever. Like, You are them and they are you.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, if you can't look at another human being and see at least some part of yourself in that reflection, you're the fucking problem.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't, like...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's...
I can't believe that it's 2021 and these issues are still happening. Like,
This stuff's
there are so many people
on. It's going to evolve. The issues will continue on, and they'll evolve into similar issues of the same, tone. Racism is always going to exist. The facet of how it exists, or how intense it is might change, its variations, but it will always be a thing because people are people.
Yeah.
Animals are animals. This planet is a very instinctive, we have very animalistic ways. That's just how we were evolved. We're from us humans specifically are from primates. Very territorial, angry, just brutal creatures. And then somehow, some way, we evolved to have really super functioning brains, and now here we are with that same brutal mentality, but now we can tell somebody across the world, hey, fuck you, in an instant.
Which is mind blowing in itself.
Right.
I think about
would
technology.
much rather tell people fuck you face to face. But
that.
I mean, if all I've got is the interwebs,
That's why I didn't like my last job.
But I'm totally feeling these jammies, so fuck you from over here.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Technology blows my mind to this day. Like, even growing up in
some people shouldn't have
the age
access,
of technology, from where it was when we were kids to where it is now, it's just like, who the fuck thought of this? Like, who said if we put all this little fucking pieces together, wrap these cables this way, we can make this happen? Like, aliens. It blows my mind. It blows my
aliens.
mind every day.
Yes.
Aliens made us think this way. Not made us think this way. Aliens designed us to evolve this way.
They give us gifts.
Aliens.
They implemented a little seedling of some sort that made us evolve our brains slowly. What's better? If you're going to plant a forest, do you just plant it tree by tree, or do you lay the seeds down and let the forest?
You get a fucking helicopter and you seed that motherfucker.
Right. You seed it, and you let the forest grow on its own. You let it evolve. That's how aliens. If I were to believe that theory, which I'm very prone to, I won't hold myself to one thing or another for sure, because I don't fucking know.
But if we are fucking self-important enough to think that we're the only fucking living beings in this universe, that's pretty fucking cocky.
Well, Drake's equation just proves that wrong completely. I don't know if you guys pay attention to my profile. I'll share it here.
Drake, the Disney rapper?
No, right here. Yeah, Drake the rapper.
Hotline
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yes.
See this right here? This is under my name. That right there is Drake's equation. If you want to know what it is, just Google it, or I'll Google it.
Yeah, because I'm gonna remember that.
Not the number here.
Okay.
I meant Drake's equation.
Gotcha.
Genius. Here. Even Google thinks I'm talking about the goddamn rapper.
That stupid song stuck in my head. I don't even like hearing it now.
I hate Drake too. If he's listening,
you know what?
I'm sorry.
I don't like album Drake, but I will fuck around with some mixtape Drake. Mixtape Drake.
There's Drake's equation. The Drake equation is a probabilistic argument used to estimate the number of active, commutative, extraterrestrial civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy. The equation was written in 1961 by Frank Drake, not for the purposes of quantifying the number of civilizations, but as the way to stimulate scientific dialogue at the first scientific meeting on the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Okay, basically, the equation that I showed you that I have... Yeah, I get confused with my double screens here. Hold on. You take this equation, and each of these... So, N is like how many civilizations actually exist in the Milky Way galaxy at this moment. Okay, that's what N is. That's the number we want to know. How many other civilizations, intelligent life exist right
Yes.
now in our Milky Way galaxy. These different equations here, these different numbers are where you would input the numbers if we knew them. You know, how many stars are there in the Milky Way galaxy? You know, then you take that, okay, how many stars? So how many of those stars have planets that revolve around them? How many of those stars that have planets that revolve around them have life on them? How many of those have intelligent life? How many of those have intelligent life that haven't destroyed themselves or have been destroyed?
Yeah.
You know, and that number equals out to n. Now, Drake's equation has been broken down into 1% before. If you do 1% out of the 4, I think, billion stars that are in the Milky Way galaxy, you still have a minimum of 10 civilizations that still exist.
Nice.
But
So
now,
there's,
but
like-
that's saying, you know, only 1% of stars that we see have planets revolving around them. But now we know for a fact that almost every single star has a planet revolving around it. Not just one, but actually a dozen on average.
That's crazy.
So that number automatically jumps up, you know, 90 some odd fucking percent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah, that is crazy.
so that's Drake's equation. That's been my Facebook, whatever you call
About
this.
me.
Yeah, that's been that for years.
That's crazy. I never would have known that.
So yeah, to think that we're alone is just a disconnect of common
Right.
sense to me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But furthermore, I do believe that, or I do really like the idea that we were helped in our evolution to become
Yeah.
what we are, because there's a huge difference between
mean,
primates and the humanoids we are now.
It would make sense, you know. It does make sense, you know, that we were helped along the way, and I think, you know, I've always been a believer that there's other life forms out there. I just I want to know if they're here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I want to know if they're here, but I also don't want to know that they're here.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. Like it's
If
like,
they're here,
you know, clearly they're not a harm if they're here.
yeah,
But
I mean, but they
are
could
they?
be because you don't know which ones they are, right?
Right.
So
So are they here?
yeah. And are they
You
a
know,
harm?
and are they
there's no
a harm?
definites in that. Like you don't.
Right.
Some of the things in your life where you see people do and they're like, how could any fucking human being ever do that? Like maybe it's not.
Right.
Whatever. We could do this for days.
yeah. Well,
I gotta work in the morning.
all right. Well,
Robot.
because I could go down this. I could
Yeah.
I could bring up clips and stuff like this of actual
Yeah.
testimonies of people, of credible people that have a lot of shit to say, but
Right.
Yeah. It's
it's yeah. Anyway, I think we'll probably call it, because I gotta get up in the morning also.
Yeah.
I've been up since 5:30 this morning anyway.
sounds horrible.
Same.
But the good news is my work. You know, I work out in Westerville.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got a job here in Thornville, so that's where I'm at.
Nice.
For the first time since I've started.
For the first time since like ever.
Yeah, I'm working 11 minutes from the house.
Nice. That's beautiful.
Which is ironic because now I have the truck.
I hate
Like,
the drive to Westerville. It's
I have the truck until this job is done. You know.
yeah.
So it's like, oh, my commute is only 11 minutes, but now I have to drive the work truck and not my car. That you know, like,
Right.
not that I mind, but
No,
still,
it's just
it's
ironic. Like
exactly.
Thanks.
So, all right, guys, Robert, Mindy, thank you so much for coming in and
no
telling us
problem.
your stories. You know, and then just shooting a shit with me afterwards. So,
we're gonna podcast about aliens next.
dude, I'm ready. I'm fucking prepared
Yeah.
for that conversation.
I am unprepared but down to learn and offer my supportive commentary.
I'll send.
Willful ignorance, I'm telling you, it's one of those things, because if I knew there was fucking aliens among us, I would be fucking paranoid and skep of every person that I met, so I would just prefer to not know. If you're a fucking alien and you're my friend and I don't know it, cool beans, you're a cool fucking alien.
I mean, I wouldn't be skeptical. I wouldn't be sketchy if people. If I knew aliens existed, I'd be like, all right, cool, sweet.
Yeah, but then I would think everybody was an alien and I would
why
want to
would-
know who.
So I wouldn't let that shit stress me out. I'd just
It's
be like,
him.
It's me.
no, it's probably me.
It could be.
It very well could be.
It might be June. Who
Well,
knows?
yeah.
We assume if aliens were here that they'd be human. I mean, June.
Well, yeah.
June, my pig in the backyard might be a fucking alien.
That's true. She is a fucking cool pig.
Dude, yeah, and she's pissy about not being in the house anymore.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. I try to get my dog to talk all the time. I will too. I'll be like, look, I said, I'll go. I know you can talk. Just do it. Just do it one time. I won't tell anybody. I promise. Just say something. Just say something. All you gotta do is like just say one word. I won't tell anybody. I promise.
What are you gonna do when he looks at you and tells you
my
to fuck
phone's
off?
away.
He's
Like,
hey
like
man,
just say one word.
I have a treaty. I can't do this,
Right.
man. They find
Right.
out.
I'm waiting for
dead.
the day for him to do it, but he hasn't done it yet.
Breaking
it's been
the
like
puppy
6
code.
years. You know, like
It's like
just do
Toy
it.
Story
Just
for
do it.
animals.
Right, right. Just do it.
All right, guys. Well, yep. All right, I'll put all your information, whatever, down the bottom for your business and all that stuff, Mindy. So, and goddamn, I keep losing my mouse.
You still have to look up Jason Collier. Just so you know.
Oh, I did, but there's like 5 different things that popped up, and I didn't.
Yeah,
I was listening, so I didn't want to like
don't
start
do it right
reading.
now.
Yeah.
It's like hours, but like.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Peace.